evening. We're going to call our meeting to order. Today is March 26th. At 6 p.m. We're in the Public Works Building. We're going to stand for invocation and the pledge of allegiance.
Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this beautiful country we live in, this city. We once again ask your presence to be here with us, that you'll influence our decisions in a manner to be pleasing to you, Lord. We pray for those who died in the bridge in Baltimore. Lord, we know you know what's best. You just guide us in that way. In Christ's name we pray, Father. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May be seated. All right, Tammy, you can call the roll, please.
Mayor Miller.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Hamilton.
Here.
Mr. Welly.
Here.
Mr. Wolf.
Okay, first thing on our agenda are some scheduled appearances. I need to add one to this. I noticed there was nothing on here about our attorney. Today, I think it was last meeting.
Coming to the special meeting.
Okay, you are? Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
All right, well,
my contract expires on March 31st.
okay, so I'd like to go on and add a discussion on there to discuss our future attorney's position. All right? Anybody have any objections?
Are we doing that on the 29th? Or you're
Well,
talking about doing it now?
Yeah, I want to present something special. Okay, and then we'll go from there if we need the 29th.
We're meeting Friday on it.
Yeah.
What we're going to discuss tonight?
I'd like to discuss the attorney situation.
What can you discuss?
Well, why don't we do this in one thing?
Well, I mean, we
Does
got,
anybody have any objections to that? Let me bring this up. I hope to bring it up early on this meeting.
Still having our meeting on Friday, right?
Well, let's have a discussion today.
in my opinion, you should have put it on and we'd have been ready for this
I
instead
sure
of
would have
coming
put it
right
on.
here. We can't wait till Friday.
Is Friday when we're gonna possibly be deciding on the candidates? The deadline
That's
is
why
the
I wanted to-
28th. Is the Friday meeting about possibly making a decision?
Decision, yeah.
Okay. So I think a discussion today is valid, of what you might want to say about that subject.
Okay. All right, so first on the scheduled appearance is Kelly Simpson, AC Disaster.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Simpson with AC Disaster Consulting. We provide your floodplain regulation reviews for new development to ensure the city is in compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program and your local floodplain ordinance. So when an application comes in, part of what we look at is how much fill is proposed to be placed on a property and the proposed elevation requirements of a new construction. So I've been asked to come here to provide an update on the Forgotten Coast Villas. I spoke to the developer yesterday and they informed me they would have a timeline for construction at the end of next week. When we received this application in 2022, the fill volume proposed showed a depth beyond the 1 foot allowance. So when we have fill proposed in an application, your floodplain ordinance allows 1 foot of grade elevation from natural historic grade. Anytime fill is proposed to be beyond that 1 foot limit, the applicant has to show in their plans how they will excavate the same amount of fill that exceeds that limit somewhere else on the property where development is taking place. So ideally, this is to reduce your floodwater diversion and impacts to surrounding properties. Now, stormwater management is another piece of these applications, and that shows how water runoff is controlled, and that is reviewed by your city engineer. So at the time that we received the application, we asked that the applicant either provide a redesign to reduce the amount of fill, or they show how they would provide compensatory storage, that excavation of the excess fill. They chose to provide compensatory storage with a stormwater pond, which they provided in their stormwater plans last fall. Those plans were reviewed and approved by floodplain, by the city engineer and planner through our normal review processes, and then provided to P&Z and the city council in last December. So at that meeting, a development order was approved with contingencies on stormwater management, I believe. So technically, until the fill aligns with the approved grading and stormwater plans, what is there currently most likely isn't complying with your floodplain ordinance. And I say most likely because I know some dirt was removed and regraded when the swales were created recently. If the current conditions weren't temporary, I would recommend a stormwater analysis, just to show that what is in place is actually working effectively. But because there's conditional approval, it's really up to just the city to determine, how they're meeting your contingencies, essentially.
Okay. So I want to just clarify, this is the over next to the supply company, correct?
Correct.
Property next to, okay, I thought that was, but I just wanted to clarify that. All right. Any questions for Kelly?
So this is based on a project, or not?
Yes, Forgotten Coast Villas is 39 townhomes off of 15th Street. I think the address is 932 15th Street.
You good. Okay, so I think our discussion here should be, everybody, I think, at the table is familiar with this property. They came in, I remember, before I was sitting here, but I remember being out there and I remember them saying that it was wetlands and they were preserving some areas of that, and there was some flood issues that they were taking care of by putting, I think, a pipe underneath going to the back of the property.
Correct. They plan on having a stormwater pond at the back of the property with piping that flows to it. That's technically out of my scope, but
Right.
from what I remember, yes.
Okay.
And there is some areas of the property that are untouched because of the wetlands, to my knowledge.
Okay, so is the property where the dirt has been put, and I did discuss this with our previous city administrator, it looks like, originally there were really high piles of dirt, and then the contractor, I guess, was gonna come in and level it all out, and I think the engineer said, no, you need to take this away, you've got too much.
Correct.
Okay, so it was advised to them not to level this at the level it is right now, and they did it anyway. That's not understanding.
I actually don't know. I was not part of that meeting, so I don't know
Okay.
what guidance they were provided by the city at the time. I know that the floodplain team said that, typically we get a development order application before any type of development is done, including fill. So the guidance at the time was to remove the fill until we had all the information that they could provide us.
And now at this point, they've leveled it out. It is higher than the approved ordinance, correct?
Correct. So it's not higher than the approved ordinance, there's more fill than the ordinance allows. And what their plans are proposing is that they will remove a lot of that dirt when they create the stormwater ponds. So it would be in alignment with the floodplain ordinance at that time, once they remove it, and regrade it as they plan to do.
Okay. What guarantee do we have of that?
I'm not sure. You have a development order in place. I mean, it's required that they construct and develop as their plans propose. So if they don't do that, then I would assume that you can have your code enforcement follow up on it.
It didn't work the first time.
Correct.
So there's currently more fill in there than it should be, has to be removed.
We would resume, yeah, because I know some of it was regraded. I don't know if they removed any since they placed it there 2 years ago.
Okay, Chris, do you have any update on that? What's going on there?
I mean, it was all leveled when I got here in August, so I'm not familiar with the large piles that were out there before. The only update that I have, as far as the changes have taken place since I've been here, is that large ditch that was put between the dirt and the neighbors to the west. Yeah, both sides have a ditch.
And there's still flooding issues there regularly.
So the missing link here is the contractor. So we need answers from him.
Well, I think that we as a council would be the one that would discuss and decide what needs to be done with this property to get them into compliance. And when I had spoke with Mr. Baker, when I first came on, we spoke about what he called, and I didn't know, Doug's dirt pile, that it was not compliant, and it didn't even have a permit to put it there first off. Immediately it should have been removed. And it's been totally ignored, and I really feel like the council should, it's our position to bring them into compliance. Make them meet our standards, our codes. You got anything?
Didn't we have a floodplain review that was approved?
Right, last December. So the plans that we have approved will make the property in compliance with the floodplain ordinance. Their stormwater management was also approved by the city engineer at that time. So it just really is dependent on when the development will start and be completed.
So the issue is that they need to make some corrections to be in compliance with that by the time they finish the development.
Correct.
And they say they wanna do it when they do the pond, and we have them do it before.
Let's get moving.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. I would think the site grading would come first, usually it does.
So who's monitoring that?
We have to have somebody do it. Obviously.
We had a over $1 million house built in the wrong spot, according, so we need to make sure that we are, people's complying, being in compliance with our ordinance. Again, I always have said, why have something if you're not gonna follow it? No consequences to it, and
It's obviously not gonna be none of us who will go measure it, so we have to have a professional to do it, so. Chris, you gotta find somebody to do that, then, if that's.
Well, the building department will go out and inspect everything at the end.
at the end, but
Yeah.
there's nothing until the end.
Correct.
And the problem is that it should be done before that, so we can verify it.
I think it needs to be done.
Can that be
Yes,
done?
yeah, exactly what he said. It needed to be done yesterday. It needed to be done as soon as I put the dirt on there. You know, as soon as we had a non-compliance to our ordinance, it should have been taken care of. And it's been 2 years.
Yes.
Yep.
What is our next step? How do we get them to hurry up and do it?
I mean, you can get your engineer out there to basically oversee what they're doing and how it's going about. If they're not in compliance with the development order, you just stop them.
Remove the development order.
Yeah, that's an easy, yeah, that's code enforcement to do it, so.
Kelly, does the development order have an expiration date? Is that like in November?
I checked with the city planner and it does not have an expiration date. She said that's something they want to add in the future when they update the land development codes.
Would you possibly advise that our own engineer company, Anchor, possibly do like a stormwater analysis?
That could be a path. Absolutely, they may be able to provide some solutions to some of the temporary solutions to the stormwater issues until the developer can get to it or is done.
You think we could possibly make that happen, Chris? I know I mentioned it to you the other day, but we mentioned that maybe the engineer would be out of town and couldn't attend the meeting today, but
Yeah.
could you follow up on that?
I spoke to her, and she was out of town all last week for spring break, and so she's catching up on things, so she wasn't able to come tonight. But she said if the city council wanted her firm to do a stormwater study, then, they could easily do that.
Okay.
Would
Would you
that
advise
be-
that, Kelly?
Would that be at the expense of the developer? I don't think that should be at the expense of our city if they're in non-compliance.
I mean, I don't think it should be an expense to the city, but I'm not so sure that dirt pile is what's creating the problem. I mean, it may be in non-compliance, but if we bring it into compliance and we still have flooding to the west of it, then, we haven't solved anything.
So do we do a stop development and have them correct it before we reinstate their development?
Correcting is part of the development order though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna go in there and put in the stormwater, and normally that's gonna be at the end, because they're gonna be driving around with equipment and everything to build the structures. So the, you know, the stormwater may happen kind of simultaneously, but at the end, they're gonna come in there and finish off the swells, put in the sod and everything else to get do the slope, make sure everything flows in the correct direction. So, I mean, they're not gonna be able to correct it now, and then go in there and do construction and expect what they did initially to still work, because they're gonna be driving over it with equipment and everything else.
Well, to me, that logically doesn't make sense because other people do it the correct way and they still drive over it and they still build their structures. This is,
I'd like the contractor, I mean, we know what the problem is. Have the contractor give us a solution and a date to have it done. If he doesn't have it done, then
Yeah, I think maybe that's the answer. Give him a time. When's his time? When's it gotta be done?
Well, you know, we have given him a lot of time, he hasn't
He needs
exactly
to have-
jumped
yeah, we
to
need
it,
to-
so,
But Kelly initially stated that he's gonna provide a schedule of work by the end of next week. So he's actively working on moving forward, you know, just based on that statement.
could we maybe have that documented, not just, you know, verbal, but maybe a documented.
Mr. Smith, do you have anything to add to our discussion?
They're fine. I can tell you had to walk the property.
Sorry?
Have you walked that?
I did,
You
actually.
did? You
Yeah.
walked from the front to the back.
I did, yeah, we had a nice hike.
I'm looking at the shoes.
I'm sure she wouldn't wear those today. She
It
walked
actually
in mud.
was, they're clean from the rain. They were covered in dirt.
The
yeah.
stormwater, he went in there and dug the ditch on both sides.
Right.
So
It's not resolved the issue though.
to resolve the issue for,
Well, especially the people on Cypress that sent us all pictures of the excessive flooding after the storm.
But it wasn't even
Recent
a large
storm.
rain.
Yeah.
It
I
kind
mean,
of
you
resolved the other side, but the Cypress
Well,
side.
you know, one resident actually purchased a major pump and major tubing and all that, went to a great expense to try to keep his house from flooding. That he feels is related to this issue that has gone on for a long time.
I think we as a council, if we don't deal with this now, it's been left in our charge. Unfortunately, 2 years later, I think we're not doing the citizens that are being impacted a very good service.
are we opposed to bringing them in, give them a date, or if we're opposed to that, what's the next step? Stop the work with it and then have him come to us? That's another option.
well, let him,
I think that's.
gentleman agreement, let him come defend himself. Along with you.
Sure, I can be here.
Anything, Mr. Well?
I'm just thinking about stopping the work, but this is part of the work. So if we stop the work, he can't do anything.
Yeah, it
So
is
that's what I'm
hard.
trying to figure out is the right angle to get the work done. That's why I keep looking puzzled
So
and sitting there.
maybe he needs to mitigate this
Mhm.
dirt. So we give an order for mitigation by a certain date.
I mean, I think you should stop anything unrelated to the water issue, but how do we word that? A date to be in compliance with floodplain and water retention and
You have any suggestions
Where
on
it's
that,
tricky.
Clint? Any legal suggestions on that?
I mean, you could just do that, except what Adrian just said.
so what's the reasonable amount of time?
I have no idea, I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
I don't, it's been 2 years since this, I have no clue.
Days, too short, too long?
To talk to us about it or get it
To
done?
get it done.
Oh,
Kelly, when did he say he was gonna get the job started? Did he make
He
it?
was gonna give us a timeline by the end of next week. He didn't indicate when it would be started.
So will you be doing the communication back to him to make sure that happens? And then
Yeah, I
you could
could
communicate back to us?
Absolutely.
So do y'all wanna wait on that communication and then the decision from there?
Yeah, can you do that and let us know on Friday? We're gonna be here on Friday,
Yeah, what time Friday?
It's in the morning.
9 o'clock.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody's in agreement that it's gonna come back with, the work schedule, and then we'll have to address that again. Okay, next is that Tanya?
Tanya, yes.
Tanya? From
Hi, yes, I'm Tanya Nation with AvCon. I'm one of the associate vice presidents with AvCon. We were hired to do a regional stormwater evaluation, and the first part will be a hydraulic study of the city of Mexico Beach. So you may have noticed we've had surveyors out over the last few weeks, and we've had environmental professionals on the 80-acre parcel that is right here on the boundary of Mexico Beach evaluating the wetlands. So right now we're in that initial investigation phase. Once the initial investigation is complete, then we are going to request some workshops with the city and the city staff, the general people within the community, to have them come out, and we'll have maps available for people to identify areas particularly that are problems, because our existing conditions model and determining where the major flooding is occurring is super important. So the best way to do that, we can always put together a model, but the best way to do it is to truly vet it with the community. So talking to all of you that know where these problem areas are, to make sure that we are identifying your problems, and then that will then segue into our plan, which is how do we implement the fixes? Creating a phasing plan that the city can realistically to install over the, and just basically identifying the highest priority where your most flooding is occurring, and then working your way out. So we do this routinely for communities. This is something that, and my specialty is Northwest Florida. So this is where I've been working in Northwest Florida for over almost 25 years now. So, but if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'm just here to just let you know that we're out, and we've got people out here. So if you see there's survey people all over the city, that's what they're doing. Any questions?
Obviously, you've been awarded this, and you're in the first phase of it.
Yes, sir.
Which you just explained to us. Is this a 4-phase system, 3-phase system, 2? How long?
There is a FEMA grant. So the first step is doing the H&H study. So it is a hydraulic and a hydrological study to identify what the problematic areas are, to provide a plan. Then that plan will go to FEMA and FDM for review. And then we go into the next step, which is taking all of that information from the study and putting it into construction drawings, which would include construction of a pond on the 80-acre site, as well as just putting together the construction drawings for all of the culvert improvements and swale improvements that are required, and other improvements throughout the area that we've identified in the H&H. So really it is a twofold process. It is, the first step is doing this H&H study, getting it approved by FDM, and then when we can go into that second phase, that's where you're going to see the plans that get implemented.
And if I can step in here, one of the things that we've discussed is that their initial task order is what it is, and there'll probably be additional task orders that are brought in front of the city council and expand the footprint of that initial task order and what it covers. but whenever they get completed with the first task order, that will give them direction of what direction they need to work in and lead to the second task order, maybe a third task order, until they, get everything completed they need to complete to handle our stormwater.
That's correct.
This is a FEMA project.
Excuse me?
FEMA project?
Yes, it is. There's grant funding available. It's funding this initial study, and then once they determine that the plan that we have proposed is implementable, and so they just have to review the plan and approve it, and then they will fund the design and construction dollars. They go
The
beyond
limit
that.
on that is $1 million for the planning side of it, and what, $7 million for the repairs, or just $8 million?
It's 8.1 or something.
Yes, I believe so, yes. And so our initial bite, our first task order was a smaller task order. And we have since discussed additional areas that need attention and need to be included in the study. So we're already looking at where the city sees the need and by working with staff.
I got the first phase, second phase. What I didn't get from you, is it kind of like a timeline? What do you think? Are we 6 months away?
The plan would be to have the first portion of the study done by October. And there's some grant assurance requirements that we have to have it completed by that time. And then it goes into FEMA and FDM for review, and we won't be authorized to start the next step until they approve the study and authorize us to move forward. And they are, like a lot of government organizations, they work at their own pace, so sometimes that does the review goes a little slow.
We've experienced that.
Yes. Yes, I
We're
have.
not new to that game.
Some move slower than others, so, but this group, they're not super quick. But we've worked with them a lot, and we've done similar projects all over Northwest Florida, helping communities like yours with flooding situations.
Any questions? Well, thank you so
All
much.
right,
We
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I want to, now, when Mr. McCahill was hired, Mr. Baber brought him to the table and said, hey, he's willing to help us out, we're in a situation. Nick was leaving, December was his last time in 2021. So the council put Mr. McCahill in place for a 6-month contract. I feel like we're kind of in that same spot now. We got Mr. McCahill's contract's ending, and we need to get an attorney to come on board. I would like to suggest, after much discussion and research and recommendations from not only Mr. Morse, who is our special master, but from also Parker, Mr. Kelly, the mayor there. I would like to recommend, hand that to Timothy. Timothy Sloan, he has so graciously agreed to come and speak with us too tonight. And Mr. Sloan,
Is this something we can do them?
yes, sir, we did it in 2021.
What's an agenda? Something we can do before we open up the bids. I don't know if we're gonna, Friday, Thursday, we open up them bids.
I would do it on a contingency. You can't make a decision on Friday, I'm leaving, I'm done. I think you could do something along the lines of
I think we need to
on an emergency basis,
be-
like I was
Yeah,
when I
right.
started.
I think we need to be proactive here, because our city does need counsel.
I think I agree with you, but I'm asking if it's not on the published agenda that's been advertised, can we make the decision today?
I would make that decision. I would just wait till Friday. You're gonna be opening the proposals. There may be someone there you wanna hire. There may be not someone there you wanna hire. And then at that time, put it on that agenda, amend that agenda, and hire Mr. Sloan on a temporary interim contract, or however you wanna do it. I will say one thing, I've worked with Mr. Sloan on numerous occasions, I think he's a fine choice.
Well,
He's
one thing
excellent
that,
at what he does.
there's a couple things that really, not only the recommendations by Mayor Parker, as well as our own special master. He has credentials, his credentials are wonderful, they are geared to municipal government work, so he's very versed in what we need. Now, we do not have a proposal, I just had him send over, because I just want to make an introduction. Get us where, if we need to do this quickly, we have somebody that's going to be sitting there, and he's agreed so graciously however long we need him. He may want to put in, we talked about, he may want to put in his proposal as well by the 28th, but we need to have something in place as an emergency situation here. It wasn't on the agenda, that's why I brought it, because I got to look and I'm like, oh, well, Clint said he was going to bring back a proposal for us, and I didn't see anything on there, so I didn't think it was any different than asking Mr. Sloan to come here and introduce him versus not having that discussion on our agenda already, so.
Thank you all for having me tonight. I know some of you all in the room, Laura, I actually worked with Mr. Hubbard for a short period of time many years ago when we had different colored hair. Back in the Cedar Grove days of early 2000s. So, and as Mr. McCahill said, I've worked with him on various occasions. I'm happy to do whatever you need done. I have been doing city work since 1986. As I told your mayor, I started when I was very young, about 6 or so, you can figure out how old I am. But be that as it may, like I say, I've done city work since 1986. Represented Cedar Grove with Mr. Hubbard. I've represented Springfield. I've represented Parker since 1986. And then I've done some associated governmental entity work. Panama City had a unique situation for a number of years. They had their own public employees relations commission, and I represented that. Actually, I was on that for a number of years, and I represented it for many years thereafter. So I have a general practice. I don't do family law, so don't call me for a divorce. I don't do any criminal law anymore. I gave that up when I was much younger. But I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have to help you out in the event you all need some legal. So I'm open to any questions from any of y'all that you want to ask me.
And again, specialty, I think it's important. And just us being proactive and knowing that, we need have legal counsel lined up. And whether it's temporary, whether we want to give them a short-term contract, whether it's just, until we can go through. I just don't want to make the same mistakes of rushing to hire someone in any position. In fact, we're not even sure that we have to put out RFP, RFP for city council. For city attorney. But anyway, because I think it was not done before. Y'all did it in like March after you were hired.
I was hired on a temporary 6-month contract. Then the city went ahead and put out an RFQ, and then it happened within 3 months, and then you need to run out the first 6-month contract. And I was chosen out of the people that applied. And I've had 2 one-year contracts since then. My second one is expiring this Sunday, Easter Sunday.
Mr. Sloan, you had,
Yes, sir.
you did or did not turn in an RFP?
I-
to us?
I have not, quite frankly, I was unaware that y'all were running out of a contract with Mr. McCahill, so I did not submit an RFQ. I'm not one to want to take over somebody's position. If Mr. McCahill was staying here, then
I'm not.
I would not be submitting anything. So once you all make the decision to go out and look for another attorney, then I'm happy to do that. And I'm happy to submit an RFQ if you want me to do that.
I think we spoke a little bit about that on the phone.
Yes, ma'am.
How'd you suddenly appear here tonight?
Well, I got a call from the mayor today.
Yeah.
That's how I got here.
That's the first time you guys talked to get here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal.
And that was after I called Mr. Morris and asked him if he would be, because he was already under a contract with us, if he would be willing to step in should Mr. McCahill decide he wasn't going to continue. And I had gotten the indication that maybe he was not wishing to continue, even though we were wishing to continue if we could find anybody. And that's why we were rushing to the 29th.
All right, so you're good to go based on what the mayor said as far as temporary, or from what you just said, possibility of putting an
Yes,
RFQ
sir.
in for full.
As I say, I've been with Parker since 1986, so I've got a long-term contract out there. Fortunately, I asked the mayor today when your meetings were, and your meetings are on alternate Tuesdays from theirs, so every once in a while, back when Mr. Hubbard and I were working at Cedar Grove, I would have a conflict because their meetings would overlap. That I don't see that here.
It'd be you personally, not an associate.
Yes, sir. Right now, I don't have any associates, so
Okay.
you got me.
Okay, good deal.
But if you find another attorney that might want to be hired, I've been trying for about 3 years to find somebody.
And
Well, Clint's available, so.
It's not a job.
And you know, we have to remember that we don't want to rush things. We want to be diligent in doing what's right for the city. So that's why I asked. And you know, it just literally, I called Mr. Morris. He recommended Mr. Sloan. Mr. Sloan and I spoke. If the timing was perfect for him as far as when the meetings are. And then I picked up the phone and called the mayor of Parker, and he gave rave reviews for his service. So I think we ought to really consider having him.
Think we can make that decision on Friday, or are you trying to look for it right now?
Well, do we need it to, I personally would like to slow down the hiring. Remember, we were like rushing last time and saying, well, you know, if they're coming in on the 28th and he's leaving, so we got to look at these on the 29th. I think we're rushing, and I think knee-jerk reactions are not what our city needs.
I agree with that, and that's why I think Friday is the appropriate time to hire an interim on a posted, transparent agenda for the public to talk when it's already on an agenda that's advertised.
Friday.
So, or Friday, what did I say?
Yeah,
That's what I meant. So, I think it's a good call to move forward and get an interim started and take our time and review, but I don't think we should make the decision today.
And we do have 2 attorneys that have already filled out their work, their paperwork for their part, so that should be considered as well on Friday. Correct.
Not necessarily if you want time to digest them. I mean, you can
Yeah.
hire
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Friday
yes.
and take your time and to go through, yeah.
Extend
To get a bigger pool, to get better candidates,
That's
yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I only knew that there were one when I started thinking about Mr. Morris, and I'm like, getting like, okay, well, we don't want to really rush this thing. If we just have one, we may need to, you know, and I know of another person that's talked about putting in an RFQ for us, so.
Thursday's the
I
deadline,
think,
so.
yeah, we're getting on the deadline. Maybe we have to, like Mr. McCahill said, maybe we want to extend that deadline. But do we want to meet on Friday to do this, or is this something, I mean, we brought things to the council before and talked about them and made that decision.
I wanna wait till Friday to make the decision, either part-time, and I think that's a good suggestion, so we could have it for maybe 2 months, 3 months, whatever, timetable. But Friday, I think is the right time.
Okay, so Tammy, do we have time to put on the Friday agenda? If we go and get that on the Friday agenda, that we'll discuss Mr. Sloan?
I think, isn't that the whole purpose of the meeting, is city attorney discussion? Isn't that the
Is that
agenda
what
item?
it says?
Yeah.
Just the discussion on it? Okay. Just want to make sure we're compliant.
Any other questions
Any
for
other
me?
questions, Will?
A request, not a question.
Yes,
Well, I
sir.
guess it is a question. Can you submit your pay structure to the city before Friday?
Sure.
Okay. That way, because I'm assuming that whenever we open up the proposals that we received already, when we open those up on Thursday, they'll have their pay structure in there. And that way, everybody's on a level playing field.
Okay. Just remember, the cheapest isn't always the best.
Oh, I understand.
On that topic, maybe we want to extend that period today and not open them Thursday to get more time. Maybe that's what we should be doing, is extending the period to try and get more applicants to be the attorney. Meet on Friday, appoint the interim, and then open them later.
And we don't have to open.
We open them, we have a big opening day.
Thursday.
Yeah, it's Thursday
Thursday's the day.
at 2 o'clock. But
That was posted for a few weeks now, right?
We can issue an addendum though to,
Because I hate to open them to Thursday, like you said, cheaper isn't always better. We need time to vet them, or I will be here, so everybody needs time to vet them. So maybe we need to extend that, get him in place on Friday,
I would extend it.
and then,
Okay, do we want to vote on that or just do a yay, nay?
Would we have to notify the
Would
two
we have
people
2 weeks?
that have,
Extended?
would
How
we
long do
have,
we stick those out there for, like a month?
30 days.
Usually, 30 days, so we want to extend it 30 days?
extend an additional 30 days?
That's the plan.
is that what you want?
I would make a motion to extend the city attorney RFP response deadline to April 28th at 2 p.m.
Second that.
All right, call vote.
Mayor Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yeah.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes,
Mr. Rowley,
Yeah,
Mr. Wright.
I do have a question, you can't make me of that. What's the difference in us voting to do that and not voting to do an interim?
Well, looks like on Friday, we're gonna do that anyways.
Well, it would save a meeting, and we have had,
Well, you
a
don't know.
lot of meetings this week.
You don't know what his fee structure is right now, right?
That's true,
Right, it's right. That's the whole name of the game, money.
We don't want any.
Chris, I'll get you that.
You wanna go in the back of the room and make some pay structure?
Well, I don't know how you have, your contract with Mr. McCahill. I typically do my work on an hourly basis and have for all the years that I've been practicing.
I will say that I spoke with Mary not long after I got here, and we talked, she pulled up Harris Hand Sales, whatever the law firm that we did have and what we had spent in a year. And he would have to make a lot of money to spend that year. And I think at that point, it was because we had, all the FEMA stuff going on. We had several lawsuits going on, I think, in the city, so that's why the expense was. But I know the opinion, specialty means a lot. But yeah, if you want to get back to Chris by Friday, and we'll bring it back to the table.
Certainly.
And sir,
Do you all require me to come back on Friday, or do you want to ask whatever questions you have of me now?
would we want to know the possible pay scale if we're going to compare them to other
Yeah,
candidates?
he's going to send that.
Okay.
Well, what Mr. Sloan's asking is, do we want him to come back
For any additional questions would be a
Yeah,
temporary.
on Friday? That's up to y'all.
I think if you're available, it wouldn't hurt, because you never know the public comment you'll get.
What time is your meeting on Friday?
9 a.m.
1 o'clock.
Do you have any conflicts?
Good Friday, Easter Sunday.
Well, that's fine with me. I'm working on Good Friday, which is contrary to the courthouse, but they typically take off. But I will see what I have on my calendar.
Would you like to call in? I'm fine with that.
Whatever you all would like, I'll try to help.
Yes, we do somewhere. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I'm sure it's there.
Yeah, it's there.
Either way, whatever you all want. I'll talk to Mr. Hubbard and we'll figure it out. Okay? Thank you all for letting me come and talk to you all.
Mr. Swan,
Thank you. Good to
thank you
see
so much for coming. Okay. Moving on, and I appreciate y'all, allowing us to kind of move forward and slow down as far as hiring process for this. I think it's really important, and we do want to be proactive. Moving on our agenda, we're on ordinance 835, incorporating compactors and rates, first reading. Mr. Hubb.
Mayor and council, I brought up a month and a half or so ago about the apartments wanting to use a compactor for their trash service due to the bear issue. At that time, the issue was tabled so we could gather some more information. A couple of weeks ago, I had the sanitation guys go and dump their trucks so it would be completely empty before going to the apartments. They did that. They loaded up all the dumpsters from the apartments. They took and dumped it, so we had no weight of it. It was 0.8 of a ton. So that gives us an idea right now of what the weight could potentially be there. And the apartments right now are at 50% capacity. And this ordinance, because this is going to be discussed at a later agenda item as well, but this ordinance would incorporate the use of the compactor, and it would also allow us to charge additional fees for residential units which have excessive garbage due to being rented out as an Airbnb. Another thing that was mentioned at the previous meeting where the compactor issues were discussed is that the city could potentially lose money on that if the weight was too much. And in the proposed ordinance, I put that the users of the compactors would pay the standard residential collection rate per unit or the actual compactor cost. So if it did exceed what they normally pay per residential unit, then we would charge them the real amount. The city would not lose any money in that situation. Allowing compactors, though, it would alleviate the bear problem. It would also take away some of the manual labor of our employees where they could potentially get injured in moving those dumpsters around manually. And again, the city would keep all the money left over as profit.
Okay. Do we want to discuss before we read the ordinance? Or do we want to read the ordinance? I didn't know the ordinance was even coming.
First
So-
reading.
Yeah. Okay, so, do I have a motion to read ordinance 835, incorporating compactors and rates, first reading?
I'll make a motion to read.
By title only, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll make a motion to read ordinance 835 by title only.
I'll second.
All right, Amy call the vote.
Okay, Mr. Welly,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes. Read.
Ordinance 835, an ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, amending ordinance 686, establishing a sanitation service, incorporating compactors and rates for their use, incorporating rates for excessive refuse at residential properties, providing for codification, repealing ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict, providing for severability and an immediately effective date.
Okay, we'll open for public discussion. Any public discussion, Ms. Stanton? Yes, please. State your name and
Cindy Darling, 27 and Street, Highway 98. Just had a couple of questions in regard to residential use. As far as commercial and apartment use in businesses, I understand and seeing where this is applicable, but residential use, I have a concern with, because at any point we could change the rate and expense on the back payers of any individual home. And if we are concerned about rental units, we need to be able to define what is excessive trash. You know, how much is excessive? I have 2 containers at my home, and at no time are they not where you can close the lid and it's contained. But I would hate to be forced to go to and have additional expense in my household when I don't need that service. I'm very pleased with the sanitation service I have today.
Yeah, can I stop you there, Mrs. Joey?
Yes.
That's on the next, residential is on the next
Okay.
ordinance.
Well, in the ordinance,
It's
they read the
defined in
term.
here as more than 3 32-gallon containers.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Any regarding the apartments and the compactors, we'll address those first. All right. I'll close the public discussion. Let's move this discussion to the table. Start over here, Mr. Wolf.
No questions.
I went out and watched them move, and it is dang what we got now. It would be a lot easier on city employees to do this.
It sounds like a workable solution.
I got a few questions. First off, what do we pay for dumpsters? Do we buy the dumpsters?
Yes.
We purchase those specifically for those apartments.
Well, we keep a certain amount of dumpsters here at the yard. Per se, we buy so many each year to replace ones that are rusted out. So, those are dumpsters that we had. We didn't specifically buy them for there because whenever they started out, there was supposed to be 2 per building and they had nowhere to put them. So right now, I've got probably 4 dumpsters sitting in the yard. It should be down there now, but nowhere to put them.
So how many dumpsters are there now?
There's 4 down there right now.
And how much did those cost the city?
Well,
We purchased those, right?
yes, ma'am, but you gotta understand, those would be utilized not just for them, anywhere. If we have a dumpster at, Mango Marley's that goes out, we would change it out. If it rusts out, put a new one in there. So we keep a certain amount of dumpsters on hand. You know, I think one of the campgrounds here has 4 dumpsters also. So they're utilized all during the year. And we do buy new dumpsters each year.
And the cost of those dumpsters?
Those that we bought last were about $500 a piece.
And we know the cost of compactor is like 20. Or something.
Mayor, and like Chris said, the way it was set up, the guys wasn't supposed to have to go in there and actually move dumpsters around. They're having to roll dumpsters out by hand to get to the back ones and then push them back in because they can't get the truck in there to them. And it absolutely, somebody could get crushed trying to do that. It is very, very hazardous doing what they're doing down there now.
Okay. Well, I don't know about the ordinance reading the way it does. I'm not against having the compactors at the current apartments out on the west side. I would be concerned that we would start the precedence of having these dumpsters and we would have, we'd have to provide what's good for one is good for all kind of thing, unless it's in our ordinance that it's just for large residential apartments or that kind of thing.
Or is subject to approval of.
What on the first page of the ordinance at the very bottom, IML.
Large multifamily developments, okay. I did read that, I did have that highlighted. I have this circle, the compactor's user will pay the standard rate, residential rate, or the actual compactor cost, whichever is higher. And I noticed on the actual contract that with the contract, and it's coming up. But there is $1,000 delivery fee for that, and who pays that?
We would pay that.
So it's more like $3,900 for every.
It's just a one-time fee, that delivery fee to bring the compactor out.
I think she'll deliver it.
I'm concerned too with our budget. We didn't budget for compactor purchases, which is 3, 4, 500, and these are 3,000. And I think, what is our current budget? How's that looking as far as our sanitation?
We're okay right now with sanitation budget.
Yeah,
Now,
I got it.
it's gonna change when summer gets here. But I think you've got another ordinance coming up that's gonna help with part of that.
Okay. But we're at 65% in the timeframe when we not hit busy season in our budget. Okay, I assume that's all been taken into consideration. Any other discussion before we move forward? We might want to take a look at the budget. Okay, so next is ordinance 836, amending ordinance 818, adjusting current sanitation rate, first reading. Do I have a motion to read ordinance 836 by title only?
Make a motion to read ordinance 836 by title only.
I'll second it.
All right. Can you call the roll?
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Rowley?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay. You ready?
Ordinance 836. An ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, amending ordinance number 818, adjusting the current rates to be charged for the use of the municipal station system, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
We'll open it up to public discussion. All right, this is a discussion of adding a fee to excessive garbage. So that's a $10 per 32 gallon or can or equivalent, which I think Tommy and I talked about. It's like 3 trash bags would be equivalent to the 32 gallon. So anybody have any? Okay, I'll close the public discussion. Let's move discussion to the table. Anybody have anything they would like to add to our discussion?
And you know, with the additional, the Airbnbs, that we're seeing so many of those come into the city with the excessive amount of garbage, that I think it's justifying that the owners of that property should, you know, give a little bit more towards that fund and pick up the garbage, because they're creating a whole lot more garbage.
And I think our discussion was they'll take a picture of that, and it will be documented through the utilities, and then it'll be added to those bills.
I think 6 32-gallon cans a week is a lot of trash. So I think we absolutely should be charging $10 a can if you exceed that.
Yeah, you got 15 people in one place, I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in my house full-time with 3 to 4 of us. Yeah, it's maybe 1 can.
Okay. Very good. We'll be having a second reading on that. Okay, other business. We've got consideration to allow Crazy Wave Runner Rental to rent space on city property. City Administrator?
Mayor and Council, Hector contacted me last week, wanted to know if the city would consider allowing him to operate from city property, specifically either Sunset Park or South 37th Street, to operate his jet ski and parasail business. I guess the recent lease, or the most recent lease he had with the other governor, they didn't renew it, and so now he's just looking for a place to operate. And he was supposed to be here tonight.
He is.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So we'll open it up for public discussion. You're welcome to come up and defend yourself here. Hey Hector, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
When I see the city allow me to rent property from you guys, we like to rent up here or next to the governor. And just trying to run my business that I have been running for over 20 years. See the city give me that opportunity.
Okay. And I noticed on here somewhere it said that you were paying approximately $1,000 a month, okay?
Yes.
Yes. Council have any questions for Hector at this point?
I do. Was it your plan to also put the wooden chairs out like you have in the past?
Whenever you guys allow me to operate, if I can get, if I can lease this spot from you guys, we have some chairs, jet skis, and the parasail.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I remember last season, I gotten some calls, like 3 calls right in a row, that between, I guess, where your little hut was, and the chairs,
yes.
and then there was some beach space, and then you had your Sea-Doos up there.
Yeah, the problem that happened last year, I remember that. Some people see that we got cone marked and they can see the tracks of the four-wheeler will go up and down with the jet skis, and they want to see it right in the middle. And we tell them please to move to the side because we don't want to hit nobody to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, they did make a pretty big deal out of it after 3 calls.
Yes.
And several emails of it.
Yeah, we got the cones, and you can see
Yeah.
in the sand, you see the marks for the four-wheelers.
And you just were asking them to move from
Yes.
that particular area
Yes.
where y'all were going. Gotcha.
I have one more question. Did at some time you possibly sue the city when you were asked to remove the chairs daily, and we had put the leave no trace behind
Yeah.
in place?
Yes, it was.
And how would you explain that?
Well, that was, when the leave no trace passed, they never mentioned anything about the business. I was forward to that because a lot of people bring trash and they just leave it there. And we cannot touch it because it's personal property. But then the leave no trace passed, then they say, oh, you are part of that, you have to move all your stuff. And the city came down there, took all my stuff, but that was all settled.
Hector, can you tell me why our governor doesn't want you there?
It's no more space back there. I don't know, you've been back there right now. See, we don't want to be walking the sea oaks and nothing like that. There's not enough room back there right now.
So you're making the decision to leave? Okay.
Well, between the Miss Kathy and, or there's no room. When you have jet skis done and everything, if you ever been back there, and it's
Pretty tight.
yes.
They've lost a lot of beach
Yes.
in the storm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I actually spoke with, Wally, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, I spoke with him, and he said it was a parking issue as well, so
Yes.
I think that's a big deal. Okay,
That's it. Well, thank you guys.
thank you. All right, any other citizens, comments, discussion? Okay.
I'm gonna speak up again.
Yes, ma'am.
Cindy Jolly again, Highway 98. I don't think that's how we should utilize our space in our parks. I think we need to open it for the public, and that's a lot of children play and things like that. And I just don't think that that needs to be a retail business or a place where next is it going to be four-wheelers, next is it gonna be, scooters, so how do we limit that? I just don't think we need to lease our property out like that, especially if it's considered a park. Thank you.
Lorene Lindsay, 207 Florida. The other concern I have is and I asked this question because it's been asked of me, how are these Sea-Doos going in and out? Because if you read on the city's website, it says you can't operate any kind of powered vehicle within 300 feet of the shoreline. And that's a long way. So I'm concerned about that. If you have kids, which we have a lot of kids on the beach, and it's hard to see a tiny little head when you're out in that sun. So I have concerns about safety from that standpoint as well. And especially in that part of the beach, it's very congested. We have a lot of people using Sunset Park now, which is great. But at the same time, we need to protect the people that are here to use our beaches. And I worry especially about the kids.
And we are getting busier and busier. And we're gonna have big these apartments coming down our beaches soon. It's gonna be very congested and great.
Tim Linderman, St. Francis. So has a safety study been done by the staff of the location of this, or the two possible locations, is a question. I think Sunset Park would obviously be not recommended just based on the number of people that use that beach and the safety concerns. The pier is currently, there's nothing there, no pier, but at some point there will be. And I don't know how this will affect that. I wouldn't recommend having jet skis around the pier area itself. Another issue that came up today is the Turtle Patrol has concerns about things being left on the beach. The chairs, the shack, and the jet skis during turtle season, that can block the turtles' progress, and they've had some issues in the past. Is this the only business that would be allowed to do this, or would other businesses be allowed to apply for the same type of lease?
My recommendation would be is if the city council was willing to do something like this, that we, start working on an ordinance to allow just one business per city property. So we could maybe allow one at Sunset Park if we wanted to, one at the pier, but then that would be it, just cut it off there. Obviously, that's council discretion though.
Yeah, and I'm under the impression that there's only so many places that this type of business is allowed because of the distance, the requirement to have property out to the beach. Is that correct? Or is this not limited to one place?
The ordinance actually reads that they can only have a place where there's a commercial property. So like behind El Governor, there's a commercial property.
Okay, and I think this is a great tourist attraction, so I'm not opposed to him being in business here, but I wouldn't recommend rushing into a decision tonight until you've really looked at the safety considerations. And maybe one thing that I would look at is, could you in place floats or cones along the path that they would come and go from the beach, is so people would know the cones on the beach. Kids drift, the tide pulls you back and forth. So I think my recommendation is you look at this more, and so that if you do approve it, you can actually give Hector some guidance or an actual contract that includes these safety issues and the turtle issues. Thank you.
Yes, Lisa was up first. Thank you, John.
Lisa Logan, Maryland. Where exactly would the jet skis be hauled in and out? Because the city covered up that DEP-approved beach access that was right next to the El Governor when y'all rebuilt Sunset Park. So where exactly are you expecting him to access the beach?
Road straight in there, Sunset Park. A walkway, I think you can.
The walkway for Sunset Park?
Emergency access.
And where exactly is that emergency access?
I think when you're facing it to the right, isn't it?
There's one to the left of the El Governor that goes down between the El Governor where the annex used to be, and then there's one back to the right.
Right,
I believe 25th Street, that's it.
There's one right next door to Sunset Park. There's that rock factory, or the brick factory.
John Harrell, 43 First Street. And I may have to ask him, but wasn't he at where Toucans is going up last season?
Yes, and
He can't go back?
be there because they're getting ready to do construction. He can't be in that construction zone.
Okay, that's why I was wondering. I was wondering why can't he go back where he was, but I didn't realize the construction would go all the way down to the water. So if he was on the beach and the construction's going on, how would that
Well, that's what I was told. Mr. Hictor, what has been, I was told that you couldn't go back behind Toucans because of the construction.
Because of construction, yes, and the contractor is gonna be building that building. He has concern about people trying to park in his working area. And when I leased the property from them, it was nothing from there, so I can park. People can park coming in and out. And I would love to be back over there, but it's up to you, you guys are the city, because they'll be using just the city parking.
Okay, any other public comments, discussion? All right, we'll close the public discussion, move to discussion to the table.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of like the same thing as Ms. Jolly. I think that Parker Park or Sunset Park is not even an option. That's tourist and residential. I'm good with that. 37th Street, we're gonna have an attraction there. The attraction is gonna be the pier. I think we need to get that in place before we make a decision on what we're gonna surround it with versus, you know, the cart before the horse. So I really don't agree with either one of them. But I also know that he has a business and it's looked at, respected, and used. So I think we ought to maybe try to come up with a solution. I know it's not great to get off of the beach or get off of Highway 98, but we have the boat launch, we have the old ramp over on 40th or 42nd Street that is. He could rent docks, you know, run off of that. I mean, some other options that we might be able to look at to accommodate it. I don't support either 37th Street or Sunset.
Well, I wrote down 3 things before anyone spoke, and you're all gonna be shocked. I think we all agree. First one, we have a beach vending ordinance, spells this all out already. We should look at that and follow it. Next one is, I'm gonna say parks, and I'm calling 37th Street a park. These 2 parks are the busiest 2 areas of our beach. Nowhere is busier than these 2 parks. And the last thing I wrote down before we discussed this was, I'm not willing to be in the interest, or in the business of commercializing our city parks. So that's all, both options are a no for me.
Mr. Smith?
But I don't think there's a solution. I mean, I like, Hector's a good businessman. And I wished he could find, we do have an ordinance of vending on the beach. I think I tried to say there were 5, but I could never count but 4, so. I wish he could find one of them, but Sunset Park is, to me, is out of
You know, I think we're in an era where we value more than ever the pristine beaches that we have. So many people love to visit that Sunset Park. It's my understanding that beach is more narrow now because it's eroding. We do have plans, I think, after the turtle season to have a refurbish of the beach and add more sand and make it even more pristine. So even more reason why we don't want to interfere with that beautiful look that we have at Sunset. Too much effort has been put into making it what it is, and it's enjoyed by too many people. Why would we want that to all of a sudden be a parking lot and a place to sit while you're waiting to go on a jet ski? Come and take your shower here. Where are the people that are using it now? Where are they supposed to go? Where are they supposed to park? I just think it's not a good idea for many reasons. And then I don't think the other place, the 37th Street, because we have a vision for what that will be. We don't know what that is yet. I don't think that would be a good decision to put it there either, for the same reasons.
I have some of the same concerns as all of you. Our ordinance needs to be, you know, again, if you're gonna have an ordinance, number one, it should be, you know, that we don't need the ordinance. Another thing I see on here, you know, parking's an issue, for either of these places for certain. Maybe not so much the pier right now, but will be in the future. I have bigger concerns about liability being on city property. I think it's, and I've even thought about this for the food trucks. We might be putting our city in a large liability by putting a private business on our property. And I personally would like to not do anything with that until we could answer that question of what kind of liability this would put on our city. Any kind of liability? I mean, I think this
I would make them
discussion
have
is-
insurance, and then you'd be an additional insured.
Well, already have the insurance, that's not an issue, they already have the insurance for many years.
But if you do, if there is a business on your, and you could have him indemnify you as well.
He's got us as an additional insured too.
Yeah, if something happens there, usually they're gonna sue everybody. If you own the property, they're gonna sue you. And so, I mean, that's gonna happen, but hopefully his insurance would cover it. You're an additional insured. But there's always a risk of liability.
Yeah.
If you have a business on city property.
So, I'm not wild about this phrase down here that, allow no more than one business to operate on the beach from city-owned property. Again, I don't think we can, we should say, oh, well, no offense, Hector, I like you, buddy. But, yeah, Hector can have one, but maybe Cindy Jolly wants to come down there and have another one, or Gary Cox may want to have, I don't think that's fair to say only one business can do this, and are we opening a can of worms if we say that?
Excuse me. And one time Toucan property get finished, I'll be allowed to go back up there. This will be just temporary, until the construction's done.
So is this something?
Okay,
we want-
so are we taking action today? Do we need to make a motion to permit or not permit?
We need either a motion to approve, deny, or table. Those are our options.
So I would like to make a motion to deny a permit to this business to operate on city property.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And then call the roll, please.
Mr. Wolf,
This is to not,
Yes.
to deny.
To deny.
Yes.
Mr. Welly,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes?
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes.
Now, the next question before we move from that
Yeah,
is, do we
that's
have
right.
any idea? I mean, I wanna find a
Yeah, we
solution.
want to find a solution for you.
Right, is it boat ramp, is it possible to launch from the boat ramp, or launch from,
It'd be a lot of
the actual docks that we have? Is there some type of deal we can give you on what the docks?
Well, you got people coming running jet skis, they have very little experience, and it'd be hard to get out coming in and out with much traffic, other vessels coming in and out through there.
I was thinking Dog Beach, but I think
No,
that's
I
probably
don't
not a
think
bad
they're in the
spot.
exact
but-
same place, but I'm thinking, well, that's not really in the
Yeah.
hub of our.
And it's another park.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what beach are you bringing up?
The Dog Beach, Canal Park,
Oh,
down on the other side of the canal.
Yeah.
To the beach.
Do you want a solution? You want to talk
I
about
don't
a
have a
solution?
solution.
I'm open.
Similar to St. Francis. I have a concern about additional jet ski traffic on the canal with the boats coming in and out, and the choke point as you come in, especially novice jet ski riders, I guess, is the best way, if that's how they operate. But it's certainly doable, but there's some safety considerations, and right now I think many of the boat operators dislike the jet skis launching from down at the boat ramp. Sometimes it gets really busy. So I don't know that that's a good solution. It might be a solution, but it's probably not a good one. Thank you.
We're gonna be launching kayaks out of that same canal.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Tim King, Castle Lane. Hey, the pier's not gonna get built in a hurry, is it?
Yeah. Here's gonna be rebuilt, but it may.
I know,
be-
but it's been 6
it-
years already,
It's
so,
gonna
right?
be another.
But what
couple
I'm
years.
saying is, why, you know, that's got the most parking. I mean,
It does.
if, couldn't we give him a contract for 1 year, 1 season, till he can get back on Toucan's property?
I think it goes back to it being city property, but
Liability.
he does have liability insurance. so-
Yeah, and like the attorney said, he can put, he can add the city too.
Yeah, he already has,
Oh, he did? Oh,
Yes.
okay, so that's already there, so.
so.
So,
we're in place.
I mean, it wouldn't be in the way for 1 year, a 1 year lease, so he can get back on Toucan.
Again, I don't think we can, say just one person can do this. And that would lead us back to some more, issues. I mean, literally the 37th Street, that would be absolutely the best place. But again, city property, liability, I mean, I don't know.
And we don't have the vision for what we want to do there yet.
I don't think it's a good
Well-
place. I think it's a very busy part of the beach right there, because that is the public parking.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. Nearing Adams Highway 98. You know, we're making statements that we don't help businesses. I mean, we grandfathered Killer with a seafood truck. At Parker Park, when we have stuff, we have vendors and food trucks that come and do work. I mean, this guy's been here for 25 years. Why don't we try to work something out? Toucan's is going to lease parking spaces. So, like, why don't we go down to Toucan's and say, really, contractor, can we not have 6 feet in the morning at 6 a.m. for him to drag stuff out and back? And that solves the whole thing. It stays within ordinance. Why can't we, as a city, have a conversation about helping this out? We've got a contractor that doesn't want to move equipment at night. You know, we got a man here that's been operating the business for 25 years. And I'm not saying that we should force anybody to do anything, because that's certainly not what I am, but I'm saying, can we at least try to have a conversation and come up with something amenable? Because, but I just want to make the fact that I've seen this council make special arrangements for people that were here, especially before the storm.
Can we move him east of Toucan's, just
That's what I
down
was
to east,
wondering.
just move
But
him
he would
east?
still be on city property there.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's not far.
it's not far though, absolutely.
Right. I know the owners of the Toucan's property. I can give them a call tomorrow, see if there's some way that we can maybe squeeze him in there.
Or you can shift it just to
If we just put one little corner of his building on their property.
I'm sure we're gonna.
I mean, they're leasing
It
our
would be
parking lot, so
commercial.
what's the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that should have been on this here,
Yeah.
it should have been you need it short term. I mean, I think we would have had more consideration and looked at it a lot different.
How long is
What
the
we did is
Toucan?
we gave you a decision on 37th and Sunset Park.
Yeah.
If this is something that has to be for 6 months or for 8 months, that's a piece of information we needed.
How long is Toucan's gonna take to build? Is it better? I don't think this is a 6-8 month.
No.
I think this is a 3 to 4 years.
Just a reminder, the motion was just passed 5-0,
Right.
said
Yep.
city property, didn't specify
Right.
anything in particular.
Can we table this something, talk about it after you talk to Catherine in, or after?
Discussion denied, we can always come back.
Business
Council.
Well, it's really not, it wouldn't need to come back here if the Toucan's gave you permission, right? It's their
Right,
property.
if it was, yeah.
I'll get with you after.
Yeah, but Chris will get with you, Hector, and we'll get you figured out. If something happens, we have to come back to the table, we'll back to the table. Don't take care of it.
Thank you very much.
Keeping us informed. Thank you, Hector. Okay. Great discussions. Let's, looks like next on the agenda is discussion on going back to food trucks, and, I think a lot of this discussion has to do with a lot of what we just talked about too. Councilwoman Hamilton, go ahead.
I realize that we've already had a long discussion about the food trucks and that we did refer it to the P&Z with the task order, some things for them to think of. However, they're not meeting until April the 1st, and then when we have a meeting in the city council, we have a meeting on April the 9th. That leaves a long window in between before any decision can be made. Since then, we already know we have one additional food food truck that came on 27th Street. So there's 2 there now. One of the citizens took this picture that I've tried to pass around to everybody that was at 11:30 today, where 6 cars are double parked on the road, which is the right of way. Plus they're parked down the street. They go down the dead-end street to try to turn around with trailers and everything else. So this isn't going to be a problem. This is a problem. You know, I feel like a lot of the citizens felt like we were just kicking the can a little bit and just, you know, how long could it take to possibly come up with a solution? In the meantime, these food trucks can very rapidly get their licensing from the state of Florida and then their business permit from us, and bam, they're there. That particular property, there's no limit as to how many trucks that property owner can allow on there, on that particular piece of property. You know, that could make that situation really even worse. We have a lot of citizens that are here tonight that are very concerned about this food truck business. I think it would be wise for us to make a motion to have a moratorium on just continue allowing the business permits to be issued by the city, put a hold on these food trucks, don't allow any more in until we come up with a better solution, because this is a problem today. It's not going to be a problem.
Do we issue permits?
No, we do.
I mean,
No,
that's against
the
statute.
city issues business permits, is my understanding.
Business license.
Business license. So can we hold that? Can we put a moratorium on that? Because if we do, then they can't continue to keep coming in until we can come up with a better solution.
I mean, that's council discretion, but I'd ask a lawyer to come up and speak. You know, she's the professional in the room on land use.
So I want to make sure I understand your question. Are you asking if we can?
Can we issue a moratorium, stop giving out business permits for the food trucks to continue to come in here until we can come up with a better solution? This is a big, big problem in the city.
So on the issue of moratoriums, and Clint is your attorney, so I would have to ask him to chime in, but I can tell you that there is no Florida statute legislation that speaks to moratorium. There are case law studies that speak to moratorium, and generally a moratorium is adopted by ordinance, and there has to be time limit, there has to be reasons, and so anytime you adopt an ordinance, you are subject to Florida Statute 125 for all of your ordinances, so you would have to give notice and put it on the agenda.
Take about as long as it, to your next meeting, you have P&Z look at it.
In any case, yes, you'd have to advertise the moratorium. Does that answer your question?
It complicates me. Also, one of the citizens that is a resident on 27th Street, evidently she tried to pursue, you know, does some of these food courts even have the correct licensing, and that was a, you know, real iffy answer that she didn't get a confirmation on that. So how adequately are we confirming that these licenses are in place and that they're being posted in these businesses? And who's viewing those licenses to make sure that everything's accurate and in place?
This, can I ask, look at this picture?
Don't they turn in their state license when they
I mean,
apply?
this isn't legal pursuant to our ordinance anyway, is it? I mean, so I don't.
It's a parking problem.
It's a parking problem.
Well, I mean, we don't allow just a food truck just pull up on any right of way anywhere.
Oh, that's people parking to go to the
Oh, I thought that was the food truck
No.
right there.
Well, yeah, that's another trailer behind the truck, because this is, you know, 6 vehicles parked on Highway 98, the people trying to come out of 27th, a dead-end street, how can they possibly make a left turn? And then here, even on 26th Street, how can they make a right turn? Because they can't view, because we're allowing this to happen.
And don't we have some kind of ordinance about parking on the right of ways there?
You should have said yes in the back.
And in green.
We do.
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed.
I don't think you're,
And
I was
they were
gonna say, I
gone
don't
before
think
we
we're.
got there today.
Yeah, I did notify them immediately when I got this email, and by that time, the lunch crew had already left.
So I mean, this is illegal anyway.
Yeah.
So-
But what can we do to prevent that? Do we need to put up signs?
We need to
We're gonna
do
get
that.
Marty to stand
get
out there
Marty
and
over there.
direct
start
them, say,
writing
go
tickets.
somewhere else, no. Yeah.
We've already got it on extra patrol, especially during the lunchtime, depending on calls and stuff like that's happening. We're down there. I moved them the other day. I got moving vans out the road, cars that were parked in the road and everything else. Yes, double parking on state right of way is illegal.
Okay, so right now, we are at a spot that, we have food truck that's causing hazards, safety, so I think we need to address that.
And that is in your regulation. I'm not sure, is the food truck on the right of way or is it on private
It's
property?
on private property, but the customers are coming
Okay,
from.
yeah, well, your ordinance or your regulation says, you cannot obstruct or create unsafe ingress or egress issues. So if there's a problem with unsafe conditions, then the food truck should be required to move.
I think he has verified that for certain, it is an issue, a safety issue.
The other thing that your regulation states is that the food truck shall be set back a minimum 10 feet from all property lines, so I'm not sure if that's being looked at when they're locating the food trucks also.
I think that particular lot, they're 10 feet.
Okay.
But I'm wondering if some of the other lots that have 3 or 4 food trucks are in compliance now. I think that's code enforcement.
This particular case, the electrical lines are, just trailed across the grass. Is that legal?
And it needs to be determined whether or not that's a safety issue, and if it is a safety issue, then you can cite them for creating the unsafe condition.
Once again, in my opinion, this goes back to possible consideration, possibly developing one location and creating a food court somewhere. Like some people have suggested Parker Park and how that could enhance an underused park. Possibly go with that, and we probably have more activities out there as a result, or the activities that we have would be better attended. So that brings it back to the possibility of one location to avoid situations like this.
So just so you know, we are getting ready to get another food truck on the corner of, is it 37?
South 37.
South 37.
And the thing is, these people, he's got, on 27th, he has 2 trucks there now. What's to stop him from having 5 next week? Because they get these licenses very rapidly.
So that your regulation states you allow them in zoning districts that allow restaurants and open-air cafes or neighborhood and community scale commercial uses, according to section 2.02, which is your zoning section. So that's how you're limiting the location. You can have them within the recreation zoning district, which I assume the park is a recreation zoning district, but only with advance written permission by the government agency, and a copy of such written permission must be kept in the food truck while it's located within the city.
I think we really need to go back and look at our ordinance for these trucks. Absolutely.
It is a little confusing.
We
when
are
you implement them.
getting inundated and we are causing hazards, safety issues. Ordinances are being ignored with the parking, so I think we need to go back and really, really consider what we want our food truck situation for the city to be.
And unfortunately, government is slow. Monday's actually going to be fast for the first to get something moving.
Did I hear you mention something about a possibility to shut this down? Did you say that?
Well, according to
speaking
the
softly.
food truck ordinance that she just read, it's causing lack of ingress, egress, and a safety hazard. I think we could shut it down.
Okay. So how do we make that happen?
But is the truck causing, or the people going to the truck causing it?
The businesses.
They don't control the amount of traffic, I guess.
They don't control where they park if there's not dedicated parking.
There's not dedicated parking. Do we require dedicated parking?
No.
There is on the side.
There is, but it's just not
Yeah.
enough. Plus they turn down 27th Street, right into it.
And this can be stopped, because they're not allowed to park on the right. Marty's gonna take care of it.
Which means if they can't park on the right of way, they're gonna be parking down their street, a dead end street, a narrow street, turning around in people's yards, creating more problems.
All right. So, do we have any, I'm gonna open for, and Laura, if you can. Okay, I was afraid of that. Laura, if you will stick close and we may have questions for you. So where do I start? Hang on, Gary, hang on, I had a lot more hands in the back, buddy. Let me start back there.
back, I'm gonna throw it
Sit down. I this way. You're standing up, let her go, then you, okay? All right.
Thank you.
Name
I'm
and-
Lisa Harper on 27th Street,
Okay.
and the picture that you have is compliments of me at 11:30 this morning.
Thank you.
It is a safety nightmare trying to get off of 27th and turn left or right on 98 at this point. As you see, there's trucks with trailers. These are workers' trucks that are building our city back, and you know they need someplace to eat too. But when they're parking too deep, that's a challenge for anybody trying to get out of the off 27th. The parking lot, or the parking that is on site, is about 5 spots. One of them is one of the workers, and I'll go ahead and get to the issue about the setbacks, because the back of that property, the truck itself is probably off of the setback by the 10 feet. However, they park a trailer right behind it, and they have another vehicle, a van, I think, behind that. So that is right up to the line. So I know that, I mean, I can take a picture, or you guys can, head over there and see it. But all this, the parking lot overflow, I saw somebody parking directly on the street to hop out and go get some tacos. And this is a dead-end street. There is nowhere to turn around. So, we've seen the increase in traffic of everybody coming down there who can't read the sign that says no outlet, or dead end. So that is a concern. It's very narrow, and emergency vehicles couldn't get through there if they tried, when you have that kind of congestion in that area. Since the city knows about this as a safety concern, what's the liability here on the city as well is my question, because you guys have to look at that, and it's like, we have to get off of our street. So, and then there's going to be more traffic coming in with spring break, summer, and everybody's going to be, funneling to 2 or more food trucks at this point. So we have concerns about that. Another thing too was that the records request that had been done, it's like, we looked at all the other food trucks, and everybody's licensing seems to be up to snuff with the Department of Hotels and Restaurants, where they're supposed to be having everything, shown. This one we couldn't find any licensing for, so how is the city looking at that from a permitting standpoint? When you're permitting that license, or the business license for the city, do they have the proper licensing for the state?
Who does that, Chris?
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement.
So
They should verify that they've got the.
They have verified everything, do we have that? So I'm assuming, Lisa, is your name Lisa?
yes, Lisa
Okay.
Harper.
Okay, I'm assuming that you have asked for their license.
I didn't ask them.
Okay.
This is a public records request
Okay.
that was made.
Gotcha.
And nothing was found for either of those businesses that are operating there. Nothing against that business. I love their products, but this is just creating a nightmare for all of the residents, and several of us are here to speak to that. Are they inspected of any,
Inspected by the state. The Department of Business and Professional Regulation does all the inspections, licensing. We call it a permit, but the statute actually says the city's not allowed to issue any permit or anything.
We can't charge any fees.
Can't charge any fees or issue a permit either. I mean, you can have, it's a matter of semantics with the business license.
What about health?
But if he doesn't, I mean, if this truck doesn't have a license, I mean, they're illegal, they shouldn't be there.
And also, thank you for bringing this up as a safety concern, because we are concerned about the planning and zoning getting the can kicked down the road a little bit longer, and it's going to be a nightmare if we don't deal with this now. So appreciate anything you guys can do on that and make our city safe again.
And I'm glad it's came back to the table, especially with their safety issues. So we need the council's job here now that we are aware how bad these safety issues are, and the ordinances are not being followed, and it's put a strain on our sheriff's department. We, as council, need to address this tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy at lunch. I'm trying to get out, there was one line there were 3 trucks, and the next thing you know, there were 3 more that came in, and that's when they got double parked, and I was like, I'll never be able to go.
We'll put your stop on there. Just kidding.
No. Thank you, but no.
Okay, well, I had to offer. Yes, ma'am, in the back. Jeez.
Diane Beckwith, 243 Nanook. Love the city and I love barbecue. So also the owner of Lowry's Barbecue food truck up here. You know, barbecue trucks can't be held responsible for parking. We can't control how anyone drives or how they park no more than Mango Marley's can or anybody that has a big truck and their truck is sticking out of a parking space and causing a hazard. It's more like we have a parking problem that needs to be addressed and possibly that we need more policemen on staff that can issue the tickets and have them directed correctly and how to park. I also don't know if the council has looked into the fact that the city of Fort Pierce was sued on behalf of food trucks for over restrictions because food trucks are already regulated and they're regulated by the state, and it was determined that the cities cannot add additional regulations to food trucks. I would also suggest that maybe we could spend our time educating the public, because what I heard tonight was some contradictory information. We're required to get our license from the state. We're inspected, depending on what equipment you have, and you have different inspections. For instance, we have to have a fire suppression to make sure we're not a fire hazard because we have to make French fries. And that also has to be inspected and kept up to date every 6 months. So also we have to have a food handler's license and a food management license. So there's lots of protections to go in to make sure that we're handling food properly and that the community is kept safe. And all of us want the community to be safe, and we want the community to have food options. I mean, Mexico Beach has been lacking in food options, and so the food trucks bring a nice alternative. I would point to you that the legal team that was involved in that lawsuit in Fort Pierce, they already put together some suggestions on how to help food truck regulations within cities, like guidelines, and also debunk some of the myths of the problems that food trucks supposedly might bring to local businesses or sidewalks, etc. And that we spend some time educating the public. And that's just my thoughts. Thanks so much.
I need a point of clarification. Sure.
Just to make a point of clarification, Florida Statute 509.102, Part 4, does allow a local government to regulate the operation of mobile food dispensing vehicles other than what the permit issue was talked about earlier. You can't regulate the food operation part of it, but you can regulate the land development code issue part of it. So I just wanted, and plenty of cities within the state of Florida do have regulations regarding
And I have
food trucks.
researched that, and I have talked to.
General rule is you can't just put a blanket, food trucks can't come here.
Right.
You can regulate where they're at.
Trash cans, separation distances.
Whether there's
Grease.
tables and chairs, whether there's.
I think there's a grease,
Yes,
And we do regulate where they are.
yes, you do right,
Yeah.
yes,
We have zoning categories that are allowed.
yes.
Might need to tighten that up.
I agree.
That's what you need planning and zoning to
I
look at.
think we're, yes, sir.
Senator King, one thing I can say is that I think the city's responsibility is more to the citizens than anyone else. Most of these food trucks, they don't live here. I mean, they're not citizens here. So, I mean, I'm not against them doing business, but I think the safety of our citizens is a lot more important than to let somebody just pull up on a street corner and start selling stuff. I mean, that's.
Thank you, Gary. I wasn't gonna let anybody get in front of you, sir. Come on.
This one here in this picture, I've looked at that site. I've got a concern, the way they got the power going to those 2 units. The temporary pole is almost on 98. They got their power cables laying on the ground, going to the people that gotta walk over them. It's a trip hazard. It ought to be a conduit underground or reposition the pole and put it overhead. That is our code should dump all over that in a heartbeat, because that is definitely a safety issue. If you get a nick in that cable, somebody gets shocked, then they're gonna sue everybody. But you have to walk over that cable to get to either one of those trailers. Because I went out and I go, this is unreal. Here's the temporary pole, here's the cable. I go, well, that ain't good. Either pick the pole up, move it back into the back of the property line, or put the conduit, put the cable in the conduit. So that's my safety concern with that one particular area. Because I checked the other places. Every one else has got their temporary poles back behind all their trailers. So you never see the cable. With that one particular there, it's just a little bit iffy on the safety issue.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Good to see you all again.
Can you state your name and where you live, please?
I'm sorry.
No.
Michael Scoggins, Killer Seafood, 704 Fortner, several addresses. Anyway, I'm really surprised that we're here tonight, because considering this was going to be kicked down to planning and zoning, and they'd asked for Tech's and mine and Barrett's input to try to progress this thing down the road. I understand that some people are upset and want to get it because of the oncoming season, so it all still sounds like it boils down to an isolated incident with this one trailer. They were given a business license to operate at a certain location, and now they just up and go to another one without notifying anyone. I don't see how that's possible. They have a business license to operate at whatever that address is on Highway 98. Now they're not even there anymore. I don't know how a business can be can do that. It's just amazing that we're talking about all the other food trucks being lumped into that situation, and we got to move them all now. Well, I can give you a dozen reasons why the Parker Park thing doesn't really work. All of these food trailers that are operating now operate on a semi-permanent basis. We all have a city water tap, a city sewer tap, a electric tap, and everything, and we all concentrate on, or we all are dependent on that powering our business. If you're talking about a come and go food truck, which none of the ones here do, they don't come and go back to their dispensary or their commissary and get reserviced at the end of the day. If you bring that into Parker Park, there is no 5 power poles, 6 power poles, 6 sewer taps, 6 water taps for each of these individual businesses to run. So they'd have to come in and leave and come back and leave, and none of these businesses are set up to operate in that type of environment. We all have followed all the rules. We got the business licenses. We have the property. Most of them, everyone I see has the parking, and everything is a pretty good situation with where they are. If this one business has an issue, I think that one should be addressed and separately compartmentalized and have them comply however you can make them comply. That up and moving, that's just weird. And I don't know about their licensing. I know what she said. We are all inspected. Whether they've been looked over through inspections or just closed the time the guy came. We got inspected last Friday at 1 o'clock in the middle of a rush with a line all the way out to the road, and the health inspector's there. So, they are out, we're getting inspected, and we get inspected sometimes in the worst of times, and you gotta be on your game, or, if we weren't, he could have shut us down right in the middle of the rush right now. So, we all are aware of what we have to do to keep the public safe and keep the business running legitimately. Anyway, I don't think the Parker Park idea is a good idea for the food trucks. I don't know how you can centrally locate everybody into that one off-road location and expect a crowd to come down and patronize these businesses the way you think it might operate. That's my opinion. Thank you.
I'd like to see that packet when you, I'd like to make a copy of that packet when you, Oh, I'd love at the end of
to.
the day, at the end of the meeting. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, nearly got us 98 again. I guess the confusion and the frustration with citizens, as I sit back here, is I agree with everything that he just said. You've got a parking issue, and all of a sudden they're isolated events. Deal with the isolated events, and then we come up with moratorium again, but buzzwords about what we're going to do and go down to the park. But the last issue, you just made a motion that we can't have a business on city property, and now you're wanting to move 6 of them on city property. Like, watching y'all's like watching windshield wipers go, man. At the end of the day, moratorium is a word for your inability to do a job, figure out what you want to do, and then implement it. We just want to stop everything until y'all can figure it out. Have y'all seen what y'all done for the last year?
Like, lower your voice, you're getting.
I mean, but have y'all seen what this council has been able to accomplish in the last year?
I think.
And we're wanting the moratorium on stuff?
Nobody.
So y'all, that's what she just said. She
Nobody
wanted to
has
do it.
voted on a moratorium.
I understand, but isn't it a discussion? So can I have an opinion and have a minute to
Oh,
speak?
absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I just sit back here and just get like, what are y'all doing? You know how many times food trucks, I've seen this come up. How many times? At least 4 or 5? Get it together. Just figure it out. Michael's right. I mean, you're looping in the good with the bad. That's what I'm saying. So just figure it out.
Yes, sir.
George Hossels, the owner of Texas Kitchen. I agree with everything Michael said. It's the same thing as we're coming down to. I think everything has to be how the way the city wants it. You guys control all this. I'm telling you, it was hard for me to come in here. It wasn't easy. And I meant to say Doug at the time is the one that got me in here. And he was really hard on me. And his idea was to keep different type of food varieties not the same. But everything had to be legit. Like I said, it wasn't easy. The health inspector does come regularly. He can bust us, like he busted me too on a rush. And I was like, dude, I was like, people are getting mad. Like, we're hungry. I was like, what can I do? Health inspector's got to do his job and everything. So we do get checked a lot. I do think also check the license. I think code enforcement needs to do that. When I got in here, code enforcement kicked me out. Before I even bought the property, like when I bought it and everything, I put my truck, she kicked me out. And I had proof and everything. She's like, I'm sorry, but I don't recognize you in the books of City of Mexico Beach. So I was like, okay. But I did everything proper, everything was good. And everything was compliant with the ordinance.
And I think there's been a misconception here. I think there's been a very misconception here. We, the council, do have the need to work together and protect our city and our citizens. And that's, I think, this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is, oh, I don't like your food truck, Mr.
Exactly.
Tex.
No, exactly. And
Michael,
I totally
we
agree.
love you, you just stay. You know, we're not doing
I
that.
totally agree with Miss Linda, what she said. That's actually a violation.
And I
Even
think-
I know better. If you're causing trouble with the city, guess what, buddy? They're gonna kick you out.
And I
You know, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
There's only so many parkings you can do in an area. Like my buddy Barrett, they got parking there where the people can park, but it's not interfering with 98.
Yeah.
You know, that's got to be a general use for the city at all times. But where that other lady, where she, and I'm not bashing people. I don't want to bash her, but I'm sorry. You had a permanent spot. By the ordinance of Mexico Beach, you followed, but you just got up and moved. You just pretty much lost your spot. And now you got to redo and everything again. And then right now it's the time you got to stop everything and make everything right.
We're
You know,
getting
you
ready
can
to get
control
really
it.
super busy. Yes, we can. We
Yeah.
need to.
Because that's how it is in Panama City. Panama
Yeah, I know.
City
I
Beach,
talked to them
you can't
today.
even have a food truck over there. It's a whole different area out there. It's just probably mafia connected. I don't know, and I want to stay out of it. You know, but you really can't have a food truck. You know, it's the rules. You know, but yes, the state does issue the license for everybody. So, but you just have to follow the rules. And if this
And
lady
I
doesn't have the license,
I have no doubt that you're following the rules, and I have no doubt that she does have the
Yeah.
license, because that's
Oh,
his
she
job
does?
to make sure.
okay. I mean,
Chris, did you?
Did she get
y'all-
permission to move? That's my question.
Yeah, that's another question.
Yeah.
I know Top Notch has permission to be there. That's where they applied to be. I
She,
did.
when she first moved, she didn't have permission to be there, but we went out and made contact with her and got all the paperwork and stuff handled.
So it's all been approved. She did. Yeah. That's one of the blanket things I'm hearing is, well, she
Yeah.
moved without permission. She is compliant right now.
okay. But if she's good, then that's probably something y'all probably need to let her know. Hey, the parking only right here, not here. And you gotta let the customers know that.
And maybe it's just a matter of putting cones out there in the
Yeah.
right of way and saying, hey, you can't park here.
Yep.
But
And
then
another
that's
one
gonna create
too.
another problem.
Another one too about
That's
other
gonna
food
create
trucks
another
coming in.
problem.
Like y'all can restrict that. If the city doesn't have that much space, y'all can say I'm sorry. Unless one of us like sells our business or whatever, then there's a spot or for whatever reason.
Yeah, we could restrict the number of food trucks that are allowed in
Yes.
the city. We can do that, and we can restrict where they're located at.
Of course.
So I think our council's doing a pretty good job, and, to bring that back and discuss it, I really think it's important
Awesome.
for safety.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all the comments. Due to time, I'm gonna, unless somebody is just have a pressing need to come up here and talk to us, I'll close the public discussion on that. Okay, we're gonna bring it to the table. Okay, so I'm closing the public discussion, we'll bring it back to the table.
You know, just once again, I think, Chris, did you say another new food truck's coming to 31st Street? Is that what you just said? 37, or whatever street.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more. When people drive through our town, whether they're tourists or whoever they are, is that the image that we want to portray, that our city is just dotted with food truck after food truck after food truck? Is that the image that we want for our city? I know there's a need for it, but is that what we want people to see scattered throughout the whole city?
I mean, that's for the council to decide.
Yeah, I'm
it's
just
no-
presenting that as a concern.
Okay.
If we're trying to create a pristine image of this town, improving the beaches, improving everything in this town, is that what we want it to be known as?
I mean, it's not,
Multiple food trucks throughout the city, that we have no limit. Put as many as you want on your lot, just keep coming, keep coming, keep coming.
if somebody comes into City Hall and they meet all of our requirements, there's no grounds for me to say no.
You gotta change the order. You
Yeah.
need to look to see if there's some changes
Yeah,
need to be made.
and I agree with Mr. McCahill and Chris, you're doing what you've gotta do. You know, it's our task to decide where we need to
You
go.
could limit it to
changing the order.
one food truck per lot. I mean, there's
And
more
lot
things you
size,
can do.
with parking, we could do all that. It needs to take place. Now, let's move back to our actual issue and problem here tonight, that this was brought to the table. We have a safety issue, and we need to decide how we're gonna address this safety issue. Do we, as a council, need this particular food truck to be relocated? Due to safety issues, because if we put cones out like, you know, Marty goes back here going, yeah, it's still gonna create another problem. They're gonna go down 27th Street, and they're gonna be parking and trying to turn around people, and, you know, it's gonna create a problem down that street. So, council?
I've seen this exact type of look at 36th Street. This isn't a unique problem to 27th Street. 36th Street's a busier street, it's actually worse there while they were there before. So I think it's an education and enforcement problem. Something that was mentioned by the lady who spoke about food truck regulation was, are we holding restaurants responsible? I gotta tell you, the one-way driving at Mango's really gets at me all day, every day, that people don't know the right way. Is it Mango's fault? No. We just need to enforce our rules. So I don't think there's a safety issue any bigger than there is on any other intersection at 27th. I just think it's a louder bunch, and that's not being rude to the people that are there. I got yelled at 36th Street. I managed a condo across the street. They yelled at me all the time. It's gonna move to wherever the next location is.
Okay, but we have an issue with the ordinance on the right of way. Let's
Needs to be
resolve that.
enforced.
Let's resolve that, and then let Marty report how that works out for us.
Enforce.
Does that work for us?
He just needs to enforce it.
Enforce it. See, you shouldn't have went to the bathroom, Marty. We just. So how do we help Marty enforce this? Do we take some cones out there, Marty? Will that help?
Yeah.
All right, we want some cones on the right of way there.
We've done that in sections around town because of the parking on the right of way, down around Shell Shack and things like that also. Because they take advantage of what they're given and everything else. There's a big parking problem in the city as far as overflow parking for condominiums, townhomes, and everything else. That's a big thing that needs to be addressed, period.
Yeah, I think so.
But we'll cone it and take care of it.
We're good with that. Is everybody good with that, any nays?
Other issues about this particular property, okay, that you put some cones out, so now they're gonna park down the street, creating more problems.
And he's gonna report back to
Okay,
us.
and also, Mr. Cox has brought up several things that he has
I think we do
observed.
need to
So,
address
I
that.
mean, at what point do we, and then there's some question about whether or not they really have a license to do
They do,
that.
right. You're
I'm
saying-
gonna go out tomorrow myself and
Okay.
verify everything.
But I mean, at what point do we say we need to shut this business down till we get things right?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess they're both spelled wrong. At least one of them was. I could tell when I looked at it for that records request, someone pulled into it. It wasn't spelled right.
Yeah. So now the safety issue of parking, we're gonna try that. Let's talk about the safety issue of these wires going across the property. That's a tripping or possibly even a electrical hazard.
Who would be addressing that tomorrow? Who would be addressing that
Who
tomorrow?
addresses electrical extension cords on private property? That's the question.
Who makes sure it's safe?
Yeah.
You can't have.
We need to make sure that this is a safe operating business. That is what a business license is for, making sure they are safely operating their business.
I had the building inspector go out and look at it. Normally they get, paid based on permits, so, but I'm sure Greg will go out and look at it if he's here in town.
Okay, if he's here in town, does that
Do
mean
you
tomorrow, or, this is really important?
He'll be here tomorrow or the next day. He's here,
I think it's here twice a week, isn't it?
and more if needed.
Yeah. Is that something you could look at as a fire chief?
People want me to go look at it. I'm not qualified to.
Probably need an electrician.
Do we have any electricians? No?
They were there 2 days ago, got 2 fire trucks. They must have saw. They were parked there, they're eating tacos.
Hang on.
I bring my own lunch to work, so it wasn't myself, maybe I'd be my man upstairs, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over there.
Fine, but I like to eat.
Okay, I'm gonna call the order, please. Call the order, please. The audience, I need y'all to, not be talking over the council. Chris, can you make sure that we get somebody out there to look at that? I appreciate it. Yeah. And we'll make sure that Marty report back to us how that's working. You can report back to me and Chris, and he can talk to each of the council or whatever, if it's something that's more urgent we need to look at. Anything else on this, Linda?
That's it for now.
You're okay? Mr. Rich, you good?
Are we still moving forward P and Z and looking at this? Is that what
I think they still have it on
Yeah.
their agenda.
Okay.
They called in for coaching.
Yeah, my only input, I put some notes in, my only input is basically the same thing Michael and Tex and the other guys are saying. And really, Ms. Hamilton, I mean, this became a problem all of a sudden because of 27th Street. So let's address 27th Street.
I think we have.
The trucks the trucks that we have they're there for a reason, they do a good job, they're clean. I mean, and they're essentially located. We put them in one place, we may cause ourselves a traffic jam. Right now, they're located on the east side, on the west side, and maybe a little bit in the middle.
And I think that we, as a council, need to bring this back for an ordinance with our new council, I guess. So I think it will come back to us and.
Like I said, the original food truck ordinance it was at the very first meeting I was at in January of 2022. I didn't write it. I remember looking at it, thinking it had some problems, but I didn't see it until I was sitting at the meeting.
A lot of ordinances.
I didn't write it either.
I know, but I'm saying, you and I have talked about a lot of ordinances have some issues, so yeah.
So I definitely think it needs to be looked at.
Yes.
Couldn't we challenge it by the land development code? If you look at 2.0205, change in use or establishment of similar use. 27th Street had 2 condos on it.
Yeah.
That gives us a right to say.
Well, what does our ordinance say?
But is it a commercially zoned property?
Yes, that's
tourist commercial.
And our ordinance says you're allowed to have a food truck in that zoning category. That's why it needs to be reworked.
Yeah, we just need to be bringing this back to our.
And really figure out where it's okay for them to be.
We need to really do a study amongst ourselves, see like, look at these.
I think when we get the permit, we can start looking at it and say, yeah, we might not want to do it because of change of use and establishment of similar use. But we may want to try to find a reason not to put one there.
I think you
if
need
we
to
get
change
our
your
ordinance,
ordinance.
yeah, we got to have an
The
ordinance.
ordinance
written.
says you're allowed to have it in that zoning category.
Exactly.
And that blanket statement alone affects bad name of Jama right off the bat.
That's right, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to impact anybody right now. I think we need to come back to the table, let's talk about it, let's get an ordinance written up the way we feel with input from our citizens, how we feel that we can best do this to not impact the businesses as well as not impact our citizens. And this summer is going to be fun, trying to keep everybody safe. So let's just bring that back to the table, Chris, for ordinance change and discussion for ordinance change and rewrite it. All right, let's move forward. Anything else? I'm sorry. Everybody's good? Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. Consideration of waste management contract for Mexico Beach Crossings. All right, Chris, you're on.
Mayor and council, this is the same contract that I presented, like I said, 5 or 6 weeks ago when this topic was first discussed. However, I did include the dump ticket that I spoke about earlier along with this so that the council could see that what should have been the most heaviest dump of the week for the apartment complex was 0.80 of a ton.
I have a procedural question. Is this premature until an ordinance is passed?
Well, they're gonna have to construct
So we can run them concurrently?
the compactor, yeah. They don't, it's kinda like our beach rate, they don't keep them laying around.
Okay. So we'll start by opening up to the public discussion. You two stomp it, I'll send you both out. Sorry. Okay. All right, open to the public discussion. Okay, don't all run up here at once. Okay, close public discussion, let's move to the table. I'm gonna say I have a problem with the city going into an agreement with a private contractor like this. I got some concerns about this whole compactor and opening up to having the city going into debt over time with other compactors.
Well, we're not going into debt.
Well, no, we're not. I mean,
It's the money we receive from the apartment complex more than covers the expense, and it says there in the background information and issue summary, our monthly charges would be approximately $5,600.
okay.
And we receive $5,029 a month from the apartment, which means we would pocket $2,430 and not doing any of the work.
Okay, so let me go back here. What am I setting a presence? So how much does, let's just go with one of the hotels. What does El Governor pay? You know, I mean, what kind of fees do they pay? What if they said, okay, well, you did it for them, we want a compactor too, because it'd be better for our clients. The trash won't stink or whatever. Would that be something we would, so if we open up this door, are we gonna end up having other businesses, because that's a business out there, other businesses wanting the city to get them a compactor
Doesn't mean you have to do it.
at 25? Well,
Weren't we addressing this because of a safety issue, because of bears and the
Bears and the employees having to manually move those dumpsters around.
So that was the reason for the change.
Yes.
so are we accounting for the $1,000 and looks like this says that hauling rate is $440, disposal, looks like it's $750.
The disposal is $67.50 a ton, which is exactly what the city pays whenever we haul it to the dump and dump it ourselves, so that's a wash. The $550 a month in rent on the compactor and the $440 a month for the load, you might as well say that's roughly $1,000. But
16, 17, 50.
for us spending that $1,000, we eliminate employee labor, wear and tear on the trucks, fuel on the trucks, the risk of employees getting hurt and manually moving those dumpsters around, and we also eliminate the bear problem that the apartments are having.
Okay, so whose idea was to have a dumpster that employees had to move it physically. How does that work? I mean, I don't visually know. I mean, if you have it usually has like,
double stack.
I'm thinking about, like, let's just take the subway, Exxon station there. They've got a concrete thing. They got a dumpster in there. The employees back up the truck. I watch it. They hook it up. They dump it. They let it back down. Truck pushes it back, and it closes the gate. So, what's different here? I've not been out there and looked at the dumpster.
The enclosure was originally built for a compactor. They designed it that way because they were unaware that Mexico Beach didn't allow outside sanitation companies to operate within our city limits. So they designed it that way. Whenever they were contacted, and this was before I got here, and they were told, no, you can't use a compactor because they were going to contract directly with Waste Management. So we told them at that time that they couldn't use the compactor. We don't have the ability to dump a compactor, and so the only ability they had to get rid of their sanitation or their garbage was for our dumpsters to go out there. Well, the enclosure will hold 4 dumpsters. They did have 5 until recently. They had 1 setting on the outside, which they also utilized. So whenever you look in that enclosure, there's 2 of the dumpsters in the back, 2 in the front, and so the employees have to manually move those in the front out of the way, bring them out of the enclosure so the trash truck can dump those, and then go in and get the other 2, bring them out manually to the truck so that the truck can move those, and then they move all 4 back inside.
So, let me ask you this. Our ordinance says that you can't use outside contractors in our city. Do we just change the ordinance and let them get their own compactor, pay their own bills? I mean,
If you do that, then you do open up the city to outside competition.
This way we make money.
This way we make money and not do any of the work.
Making 2,400 a month.
Yeah, they're doing nothing. My first question on the whole thing was, why doesn't Crossroad go directly to Waste Management? They could.
No, they can't.
Oh, they can't,
They
pursuant to
can't
our
with our
statute.
ordinance.
Our ordinance.
Yeah. So we're gonna rewrite
All right,
the
so
ordinance.
we're gonna make money on it.
Yeah. My biggest concern is if we do it for them, who else are we gonna have to do it for? Well, their price, like they're paying, what was it, $5,029, but maybe El Governor paid $300. I don't know, I'm just throwing a number. But then we're gonna split the cost for $2,900 compactor and hauling and et cetera.
You don't have to do it.
Well, and the ordinance that I presented earlier, I worded it so that they would pay the residential rate per unit or the cost of the compactor, whichever was more. So the city's not gonna lose money regardless.
And the way this is written, the only people besides them that could do it are condo buildings, because it's a large multifamily. El Governor couldn't do it.
Okay. Well, that's true.
They figure out what that margin is, and
Where
there's
is
a
that?
margin there to do it.
What if a smaller community wanted to do it?
Figure out what that margin is, and
Could you say no, even if they're a multi-unit? It doesn't specify a size of multi-unit.
It doesn't specify size. And interesting fact is the club at Mexico Beach actually had a compactor, but they ended up building their building wrong where it's not functional. But anyway, off topic. We could set a size limit, but I don't know what that size is.
If you noticed, in the ordinance, I worded it so that if somebody does come into the city and they want to use a compactor, it has to be approved by the city, and we also designate the make and model of it, because my intent is as we grow and some other businesses or residential areas may want to use compactors, then at some point we may have the customer base to where we can buy the trucks and allow us to dump them ourselves, in which case we would take over that entire process and be able to pocket more of the money without the added labor and the added danger to our employees that we're experiencing right now by using dumpsters.
We're also protected, it says, the residential collection rate per unit or the actual compactor cost, whichever is higher. So if a smaller one wanted to, they'd have to pay the higher rate.
They pay
The compactor rate.
compactor
Mhm.
rate, but that might not,
It might not make us money, but it won't make us lose money.
yeah.
we're still not doing any work dumping it or anything.
Yeah. Okay, any more discussion at the table? I'll, entertain a motion for approval, denial, or table.
I'll make a motion to approve the waste management contract for Mexico Beach Crossing.
I'll second
Okay, Kenny call roll.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Good conversation, okay. Mutual aid agreements, with Overstreet Volunteer Fire Department. Chris?
Mayor and council attached to the contract, and it's for Overstreet and Gulf County Beaches Volunteer Fire Department as well. I just didn't want to put all that in there, but it's for both of those volunteer fire departments, and the agreement is with our volunteer fire department. But it's just time to renew the mutual aid agreement. You know, there's been a lot of turnover as far as fire chiefs turnover among the elected officials who signed the previous agreements. And so we're just wanting to update the mutual aid agreement between all of our departments.
Open to the public? Close public? Any discussion at the table?
Is it yearly?
No, normally there's a 30-day either side can drop out, and it's never ending, so to speak. It's just, it's been quite a while since it was last signed, and it's a refresher more than anything else. They came here the other day when we had the fire at Waterside, and when we called for them and they came, there was 3 or 4 personnel, and everything was good. We would do exactly the same for them when if they call us.
Any changes on it?
Absolutely not. They're basically standing that, assuming that we are available, we will turn up. But if we happen to be doing something else at the time, we can't turn up, we're not obligated to turn up.
Good.
But they are not obligated to turn up with us.
So I'll entertain a motion, approval, denial, or table.
I'll make a motion to approve the mutual aid agreement in Overstreet Volunteer Fire Department.
I'll second it.
Okay, Kenny call roll, please.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
We're all forgetting our names tonight, it's okay.
It's all right. I hadn't had anything to eat, but I will say that Jerry's stomach has not been growling, so he must have been.
I did not eat.
Oh, bless your heart. Okay, listen, okay, so now we're looking at approval for the purchase of flagpoles for our city parks. Chris?
Mayor and council, Ms. Hamilton brought this up at the last council meeting. You see an email where January received quotes on the different flagpoles. Brought this to council, one, because of the price. If we buy multiple flagpoles, it's gonna be expensive, but then 2, wasn't sure what the council wanted to see in the parks, and so you have 3 different lengths of flagpoles there. And just wanted to get input from council on how they would like to go with this.
I wanted to get Tommy's opinion on this, since he oftentimes deals with the flags. And one thought I had too would be the wind factor and the flags that are closest to the water, might need to possibly be the better flags. But I wanted to get Tommy's input.
Yes, Ms. Hamilton had asked me earlier, and we have a flagpole on the way, a 30-footer that's rated at 186 mile-an-hour wind with a flag on it for Sunset Park. She asked me about the other 2 parks, Parker Park and Under the Palms Park. I would recommend the 25-foot for Under the Palms Park. It's $2,084. It's rated at about 130 mile-an-hour wind. And then Parker Park, I would put the same thing we put at Sunset Park. The 30-footer with rated at 187 mile-an-hour. It's $2,974. Those would look
And what was
good.
the last one at Parker?
Parker Park, 30-footer at Parker Park, just like the 30-footer we put down at Sunset Park.
All right.
25-foot one for,
You ordered one already.
yeah, one should be here, first of next week.
So we're good, waiting on 2.
All right. Any input from the public? Closing public. We already discussed this. Y'all just a little ahead of us tonight. Okay, so let's go back to, what do we want to do?
Does the price include flags? Does it include flags?
Does the price include the flags or just?
I believe they do, Adrian. It comes with one. I think it's 5 by 8. I'm not 5 by 6. It's out.
Just trying to get the
Four-
dollar.
4 by 6, 4 by 6. I get it right. It's like,
All right.
good flag, you have to pay for it.
Okay, any other discussion? I will entertain a motion for approval, denial, or table.
I would make a motion to approve the purchase of 3 flagpoles, 2 25-foot, 1 30-foot, and a,
Just two.
We got two.
Oh, you got one.
30 and a
30
25.
and 25.
sorry,
That's okay.
let me start over. I would make a motion to approve the purchase of 2 flagpoles and prepare the required budget amendment from fund balance in the amount of $6,000.
There you go.
Just in case of the flag news.
Second.
All right, need a call the roll, Tammy?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rowley?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
All right, I would like to see if Chris would agree to us tabling this on another day, the internal component.
Sure.
It's not up to me, I work for the council, but.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was wanting to know, yeah, can we get a motion maybe to table this, would y'all in agree
What are you
with that?
tabling?
We can't read that, so what
I-
is it?
I'll
It's
make
the
a-
internal
Internal
controls.
controls.
It's rather lengthy
Okay.
I'll make a motion to table the internal control flow chart discussion.
until,
Next meeting is April 9th.
okay, do I have a second for tabling April 9th, internal control discussion for April 9th?
I'll second it.
Okay, and call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Rowley?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Setting time of City Arbor Day proclamation on April 26th.
Yes. Yeah, National Arbor Day is on Friday, April 26th, and we just need to, we have to hold a proclamation in order to be part of Tree City, but it also helps us get grants, and we just need to set a time to do that, and then also we'll be passing out the free trees on that day. So just at council's pleasure, whatever, time works best for everybody here.
I did have a discussion with January and Julie regarding the time, compared to what they did last year, and they both suggested 9 to 11. And that each person would have to have proof of residency here by driver's license or utility bill or something. And, we would just do that till the trees ran out. And usually they said it would take about 2 hours. The Port St. Joe Garden Club did make a donation to the contribution of the expense of the trees. We do have many people here in Mexico Beach that belong to the Port St. Joe Garden Club.
Okay.
Tammy, you go now?
April 26th,
You go now?
It's too busy.
9 to 11.
9 to 11, sounds good.
Good.
All right, works for me. Okay, project list update.
I didn't include a project list because there's really not anything to update except for one item. Most of our projects right now, the FEMA projects are either in engineering, and not just FEMA, but anything that we've received a grant for, which includes FWC, the state appropriations, all those are in engineering right now. Seems like a lot of the engineering projects are being held up by waiting on survey crews to become free to do the surveys. The one big project where we do have an update is on the jetty project. We are expecting to receive confirmation of our funding to do the jetty project this week. We normally have that meeting on Wednesday, so tomorrow hopefully we'll have some good news regarding that project. But we do expect to receive confirmation of funding for that.
Okay. All right, so we have a very small audience still with us. Any citizens' comments? Yes,
I
sir.
have one, I
Just come up,
Yep.
state your name and address.
Kevin King. One thing I wanted to talk about is when y'all are going around town, and you see things. I have one that I have a question about. On 14th Street, 121 14th Street, the lady that lives directly behind that house is Mrs. Pugh. She lives at 118 15th Street. Her son is very, very ill. He's in the hospital right now. He's on oxygen 100% of the time. This house is a health hazard. I mean, this house should have been demoed 5 years ago. There's rats. I've been over there. there's rats,
I
there's
had actually
insects,
talked with
bugs,
Mrs. Chu, and
it's,
she
it's
wouldn't-
nasty. And something needs to be done, and it needs to be done quickly.
Thank you for bringing that up. Chris, can we make sure that code enforcement looks at 14th Street and see if we need to send out anything to the property?
Not Miss Pugh's house, the one behind.
Yeah.
Like on 14th.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah.
I think the problem with that house is we've attempted to contact the owner and we can't.
It's a what? Trying to get hold of.
Yeah, we've tried to contact the owner and it's impossible to contact him. We've not been
Okay.
successful in contacting
So
him.
is that considered abandonment?
Is it vacant?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Cliff?
I think you need to go ahead with the special master violation.
Yep.
And if they don't, if you can't serve him specifically, there's a way to serve him by running it in the paper. And after a certain amount of time, he's considered served, you hold the hearing, you tear it down, and you file a lien
Exactly.
on the property.
That's what I think, yeah. So please check into that and let's get that moving forward on that. Okay, citizens, thank you, Mr. King.
Lisa Logan, I would like the council to be aware as a group of the next thing that DOT has coming down the pike at us, which is looking to put this multi-use path from Crooked Island Sound all the way to 386. I talked to several of the surveyors out today. They didn't know anything. I've got to call into their boss, who is the engineer of the record. But if y'all do not stay on top of this,
We just got that in the mail.
because I've had people calling me because they've gotten the letters making sure that the surveyors can be on their property along 98. We already have a path from 386 to the end of town, and the surveyors were of the opinion that the sentiment is running to put it on the south side, although they didn't know where it would go. So we're looking at it running right through the beach parking, the public beach parking. This is not to say that it is, but that's the only other place they can put it. So you as a council need to be on top of this, protecting the town and the citizens, because DOT is just merrily throwing this out and going their own way with it. They want a multi-use path for golf carts. So please be aware of this, because they've already gotten started on it. And the funding has already been given to Bay County for this.
It's the Sun Trails
Yes.
plan, but now where Ms. Logan's calling it multi-use and where they can use golf carts, my understanding is there's no motorized vehicles allowed on the Sun Trails whenever it's completed.
Depends on who you're talking to. Let's hope that's the case. But nonetheless, you need to keep a very close eye on this, because A, we don't need another path. We've got one on the north side, and B, if they try to put it on the south side, that's going to be a real problem, y'all. So keep an eye on this.
Yeah, chatting has started in the business community as well. As I pulled into tonight's meeting, the email went out to all the businesses in town to start discussing it too.
Yeah, I got that as well, but now I got the same letter as everybody else at City Hall, so it doesn't specify where it's going to be located, only that the surveyors would be out.
Chris, is that something that we have a choice on if we want it or don't want it, or is it just we're gonna have it?
They're right away.
Yeah.
We had a meeting when Doug was still here with them about the multi-use path, and the multi-use path was not for any motorized vehicles, golf carts, or anything like that. It was for bicycles and pedestrians, and it was going to feed out towards Tyndall with the new apartments and stuff going on there, and even access back and forth. No motorized vehicles when it first came out.
And they're planning on tying this into Panama City.
And everything else, so they can ride on straight to Tyndall Avenue.
Through Tyndall.
Through Tyndall.
I can see you riding a bicycle all the way through Kendall with them bears chasing you. I've seen more bears on Kendall than I've seen in Mexico Beach. Okay. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Hey, dear God, it's 98. Ms. Helmsley, I did not mean to single you out. I just get high strung. I guess what I want to finish off is.
You were passionate.
Yeah, well, It's, look, I just knew I was gonna go home, my wife's watching this on Facebook, she's like, you did exactly what I told you not to do. But it all, really, I like all of you. I really do as people, and I think that sometimes we lose touch of, you know, even people that sometimes you disagree with can have good ideas. And so, on a good note, I will say I've had some interactions in the city. You have some really good employees. I always leave City Hall with having a better day than I did when I walked in the door. And so I don't think that they get enough. I was actually talking to Sandy yesterday about some boat slip stuff. So kudos to your employees. You have some really good employees.
We do.
That being said, just I know that we're in election time and things are going on. There's a lot of stuff going around on the internet on background, conflicts of interest and this and all this. I know that we've kind of gone back on some comments and some good discussion online, but I appreciate every single one of y'all's background, because your background is what makes you have an opinion and an input on things. And so let's just be careful to kind of like tamp down some of the, like, oh, we're a realtor, we're a developer. I came here tonight originally to talk about, you know, because I thought it was going to be, you know, a moratorium on building was going to be added, and it's not on there tonight. But just to touch on that, just keep in mind that all of us are aggravated with the development that's going on. But we put y'all in the chairs to fix the land development code. That's, you know, it's if you're an American citizen and we're making a decision to do something within the confines of the law that is currently there, this is America. We're doing what we're supposed to do. If your citizens and the constituents don't like it, hell, I don't like it. But at the end of the day, it's up to you guys to fix it. And at the last meeting, Adrian's like, let's put a committee together. I can say out of everything that this city has done, the Charter Review Committee, with all the politics that was going on, operated flawlessly. So let's put a group of people together.
Put a committee together. I think I was the one that said put a committee together.
Adrian said that he would vote for it, and it just kind of went to, oh, well, we just need to put a moratorium on the, I mean, I watched the videos, that's not how it went. But either way, I'm just saying, let's, instead of just having meeting after meeting after food truck, meeting after development, let's actually get down into the weeds and let you guys actually do something. And I don't mean that in a mean way, because I support all of you guys. But let's fix it. Those don't sit at the table and go, Chris Hubbard, how can we stop it? This man has to operate within the laws that are on the books. If we don't like it, fix it. So
Exactly.
I'll
And I think
leave
that's
it with
what we
that.
brought to the table tonight with the food trucks. Let's find a way to fix our problem. And just, you know, for you know, an understanding, I don't think there's any, we need a plan. I think we need a plan, and I think I said that over and over again.
But when
And I think-
did we set a meeting for a plan?
Yeah, we've got it in session. In fact, what is the date, Chris, on that? Do you remember? April the
You're talking about what
second?
Laura's working on?
Yeah. Is it say April?
But my point being, the citizens have been hearing, let's come up with a plan. Since you were elected, like you've been telling us, let's plan, let's plan, let's plan.
And what stopped me from doing it?
And we're here.
Because you got to please 5 people.
It's an email and put it on the agenda. How about it?
I wish it was that easy, sir. Okay.
It should be.
Like I said, I wish it was. I really wish it was that easy. But we really appreciate your input and everybody that's come, and you know, it's just awesome. I think we've got a great group of citizens, and your interest in our city makes me feel good that I live in this city.
It's a great place.
It is.
Let's try to
Can I
keep
ask
it.
a question of mine? Last meeting you mentioned the ATVs that are gonna be allowed on the streets. But we have the ability to opt out of that, is that what you said?
I think that's coming up on another meeting.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, slated
okay.
for this one.
Good, okay, thank you.
Well, crap, I was gonna say something brilliant. And I forgot. Okay, so, I know, tell me about it. It's not a fun thing to do. Under Mayor, Any other citizens' comments before I close? Okay. Under mayor's comments, I think that there was something that was said, and I just want to be on the record. Something was said at the League of Women Voters meeting that was, I think, taken out of context, and maybe it's just not having knowledge of what's actually going on. Our 2022 audit is not complete, and I think that it was kind of like put across that maybe it was complete. It is not complete. Where we're at right now, I just had a meeting this afternoon with them, where we're at right now is they've put it into the I'm gonna call it a portal, to our James Moore, who was our auditor, yearly auditors, and they're in there and they're picking through it now. So it's not complete. We hope to have it complete. We're supposed to have it complete by April something, but that ain't gonna happen.
Our accountants have put together everything
Everything's there.
that he needs to complete it.
And there's one thing, it's grants they're still working on, and that's okay. James Moore's agreed to go and start helping getting that pushed forward while the grants money's not in there just yet. So we're good. I just wanted to make it a public record and clarify that our 2022 audit is not complete. Our 2023 has been started as far as getting the information together so that when it's ready to, because they have to put it all in at one time. The grants actually should be in there. James Moore agreed that they can put that in later. So when the stuff is ready to go into the portal, that will go into that portal as well. So I just wanted to clarify that, and that was the brilliant thing I was going to say. Not so brilliant, but informative. And I think everybody needed to know about it. Okay, Rich, you got anything for us tonight?
I sure do. I'd like to just take a minute just to tell Adrian thank you for his time on the council. As I see the last meeting, right?
Yeah, farewell. I won't be here for the
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
don't let,
yeah.
hey, he's going to Australia. Don't let him fly.
Yeah.
He's so
Okay.
sad.
I fly out at noon tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I enjoyed working with him. I think he's been a great asset to the council.
We still need to keep him in our prayers because
Yes, the doctor cleared me to Australia, so I am leaving tomorrow. It's going to be shorter than originally planned, but we are moving forward and life is good.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
anything else?
And thank you, Adrian, for all your years as an employee here, as a city clerk for a number of years, and also as a city council member. We appreciate all your devotion to the city.
You want to clap?
Yeah. Anything you want to add?
Well, I've got a couple things. One of them's back on the audit, and
Okay.
also for the record, 2023 is not late. We like to say it is. It's not. It's not due till June 30th.
It's not in there yet.
I have a kudos to the fire department. Being in the condo management world, I often get woke up at night for fire alarms that I go to. I roll my eyes and say, this is going to be nonsense. But let me tell you about the fireball I rolled up on in one of my buildings. Everything worked out as planned. Mutual aid was en route. Everybody was there fast. The fire was out quickly before we didn't need all the mutual aid, but everything worked efficiently. Everybody got there quickly. And apparently, you cry wolf enough times, I get a little bit like, no, this is stupid, but that one wasn't. So, good job. And the last thing, just to elaborate, I know we vaguely talked about my health, talked about a lot of things. I had a routine issue that discovered a mass on my left kidney in January. It did not have an effect on me running. I had decided prior to that I was not running. I'm probably having a kidney removed. Who knows? I feel great. Never would have found it. It was an accident. They weren't looking for it. Found it there.
Blessing.
So it was a kidney stone saved my life, is what I keep telling people. But I'm going to MD Anderson in Houston, who they claim is the greatest in the country, and they told me, I hear you want this kidney taken out before you go on vacation. I said, yeah, I've had an Australian trip planned for 4 years, and he goes, go to Australia, we'll deal with it when you're home. It's not aggressive, it's not fast, life is good. So I'll be in and out a lot the next 2 months, but looking forward to and appreciate all the thoughts. And it's been fun to be here. I'm not going anywhere, I'll still be here, but I just need to relax for a little bit.
Yeah.
You
It's,
swore me in, you remember
I'm sure I swore in, well, you're the only one left that I swore in, yeah.
that? I got just one quick thing. We can, all our employees is the greatest. But we have one that stands out, Randy June. And our park over there, he is dedicated, he is time for the last 2 weeks raking, cleaning, it really looks good. Where's Lieutenant? He's a good boy. And he needs recognition, Tommy.
Yes, sir, he does. He, not just Randy June, but Josh, and Aaron have done a phenomenal job, and I also want to say kudos to January. She kind of took that project over, and I'm gonna tell you, if you haven't been around to 7th Street Park, Under the Palms Park, go around and take a look at it. It is phenomenal. We're not through with it. We still got some more coming, but it's turned out to be a beautiful park. And those guys, just like Jerry said, Randy has really done an excellent job.
Spearhead.
Yes, they have.
But January was the boss.
All right. Yeah, January, that's her part. Yes, it is.
You can tell by observing them that they take personal pride when they're working in that park.
They do. Everything they do around there, we're fixing to recut, blacktop, they're patching all the walking track now. As soon as they get through with that, we're gonna recoat the blacktop, and probably get Chris to do some kind of ribbon cutting over there, but, it really looks nice. It's an asset to the city.
The exercise equipment is done. It really looks good. The way they put the mulch in it, really. And they put the rest of the mulch around the trees.
We got a brand new sign outside here in the bay. It's going over there. It looks really good. So, yeah, if you haven't been around there, please go around and take a look at it.
And we want everybody to come to the ribbon cutting.
Oh, yeah.
And we want a bathroom.
And we'll have a flagpole.
And we're gonna get a flagpole. That's right.
We gotta wait till the ribbon cutting until we got our flagpole down. All right, Randy, you got anything for us tonight? Commissioner McCahill?
The only thing I have to say is I'm not gonna miss these night meetings.
All right. I think we have a room full, so it's a good thing. All right, Mr. Hubbard, anything?
A couple things. At our last meeting, Ms. Hamilton asked about the parking lot that St. Joe Company is supposed to build down off Canal Parkway. I got the update on that. The design is complete. All the stormwater information has been compiled. They're going to be applying for the environmental resource permit. Right now, the St. Joe Company is looking at their pedestrian pathway that they're going to build on the north side of Highway 98 to try to figure out how they're going to tie that into everything on the south side. Once they come to a resolution on that, then they're going to submit the plans to the city for final approval and moving forward with their development order. So that's right around the corner. And as we've all seen, they're clearing out the land over there between the apartments and Tyndall Air Force Base. Lastly is, I want to remind everybody of the blood drive tomorrow, 98 Real Estate. Come out, give the gift of life and do what, Julie? Yes. And so, come out tomorrow. We had 15 employees that donated blood the last time the bus was here, so we'd like to see at least that many of our residents come out, match that number or hopefully exceed it. And then on Saturday, there's going to be the Easter extravaganza. So we invite everybody to come out to that. It's going to be a great time. Channel 13 News had us on their live show this morning, and it's going to be a great time. So I hope to see everybody out there. That's all I have there.
What's the time on that, Chris?
The extravaganza. It starts at 10 and hopefully 10 till noon or when everybody decides they want to leave. But it starts at 10.
Thank y'all for a good meeting. Thank you everybody for coming. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. No shocker for the man in the room to say that he has. I won't give one.